Welcome to the Anger Management Podcast. We're into season 2, episode 2 already, Liam.
I know, can't believe it. We're back.
We're back. We're bad.
I don't know what we are
That's
anymore.
why I've got a hat on.
Yeah, we're sweaty. It's fucking roasting.
It's proper warm in here. This is the dedication. Just before we came on air, we decided that anything worth doing was worth sweating about.
Yeah,
so we came up with rutting, football, playing in a band, and then we struggled to think of anything any good after that, really.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd like to introduce my very good friend, bandmate and songwriting partner and all-round musical genius, Glyn Mellor. I haven't got a nickname for Glyn.
No.
Never come up with, I've got too much
GV,
respect.
right?
GV, yeah, Glynsville, that'll do. So thanks for coming on, Glyn, onto the Anger Management Podcast. I know you're a bit of a podcast supporter. You
sure,
do like
yeah.
a podcast here and there.
Podcast enthusiast, and that rhyme wasn't intentional.
So he's a podcast enthusiast, and somehow he's ended up on this bag of
Yeah, I
wank
know.
with me and you.
What's he done wrong?
From Joe Rogan to us pair of idiots.
I always thought my podcast debut would be something more grandiose, but
No, mate. Start at the bottom and work your way sideways.
I think we can't get any lower, can it? Let's be honest.
So I've known Glyn now for 20 years, I suppose. Nearly.
It's been a while.
Probably more,
yeah.
probably slightly more than that. Mainly through music, as usual, as is always the case. I know most people through music.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. We first met on the local music scene. Glyn played in a band that were good friends of my band at the time. My band was Saving Grace, and Glyn played in a band called Blast Stereos Loud. And we were good pals, the two bands. We used to support each other all across the country, and particularly on the local music scene. Eventually, I realised that Glyn was just awesome.
Far too kind.
Not bigging you up, mate, but yeah, musically, just ace. So we ended up forming our own band after Glyn came into our band and played for a year or so, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And then we split up, but me and Glyn continued with Gaz Ryder, who's also been on the podcast in season 1, and we formed the mighty Round in Circles, which is still going to this 13 years.
We've been getting by ever since, right? Yeah.
13
Only
years.
just.
So Glyn is I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but Glyn is the best musical person that I know. Might not be the greatest player, right?
Sure.
I've ever known.
I would take that.
I've ever known. But for me,
was it a compliment sandwich? Or?
For me, the best person I've ever worked with musically, Glyn brings the best out of me. You always call yourself a song developer, don't you, Glyn?
Yeah, I
Tell us a
enjoy
little bit more about that
developing and
moniker.
arranging songs. So that's just been, I think, my history in music of working with people who are generally good or really good songwriters. I like to big up Andy there, but worked with a lot of good writers over the years, and very soon realised that wasn't really me when it came to writing songs, especially in the beginning. It just didn't feel natural at all. So someone would bring me an idea, and like working with yourself, you'll bring me a song and I'll be able to, whether it's guitars, just different instruments, things like that, I feel like I can bring something else to the party.
It's
right?
a very distinct talent and gift, being a song developer rather than a songwriter, and a lot of songwriters can't do it. And for us, it's always worked brilliantly because I write the song, or I write the idea, and Glyn turns it into what I would call a radio-friendly, radio-ready song, if that makes sense, with the correct structure and the correct feel. And that's why we've all and it's a skill that's in demand these days. You have teams of production writers and in pop music, and
if someone wants to pay me for it, just let me know, right? Give me a call.
You can get in touch.
I'm currently out of work, so that'd be
Get
great.
in touch and let us know. I'm surrounded by unemployed scumbags.
Hey,
Give us a wave if you've got. Give us a wave if you've got a job. Put your hand down, Liam.
That's it.
Oh yeah. Oh, let me just wipe the sweat off my massive forehead.
You'll be there for a while.
Hey.
Tell you what.
Are you one of them who says
Steaming in here.
I'm between jobs, Liam?
Oh
You
no,
one of
I'm
them?
just. I'm
Or did
fucking.
you just say
no,
I'm just
unemployed.
scum? I'm just
unemployed.
scum.
I've been in a dead end job for the last 6 years and I fucked it off. So how's that?
I've been waiting for me gyro.
I would be that guy usually. Yeah, I'm between jobs.
I've been between jobs for 33 years. Yeah, one of them. But
Can I have a Rolex, please?
getting back on track.
Sorry, mate.
Again, Liam.
Sorry.
So I wanted to kick off the show straight away with the gripe that Glyn had on his way to the studio this morning. And I thought this was something that we could talk about because it does drive me insane. And it's simple things that are made unnecessarily complex, right?
Yeah.
Glyn, tell us what has kicked this one off this morning.
Okay, so really interesting story here, folks, but buckle up. So on the drive here, I thought, going to be speaking for quite a while, considerable period of time, right, today. So I thought, well, I'll get some water to wet my whistle.
Yeah,
pretty straight.
And you'll be surrounded by two horribly sweaty gentlemen.
Yeah, and it's plus it's a million degrees in this room, so yeah.
That'd be a turn off for some people. A bit weird.
I thought I'd grab some water, so went to the local Tesco. For people who are in Longton Tesco. Wandered in there without a mask.
Oh,
you're one of the few, are you, Glyn?
Yeah,
Brilliant.
apparently it's Freedom Day, though, right? I'm sure you'll get onto that, Andy. So,
that's a can of worms.
Went to the water aisle, expecting to be, spoilt for choice
The water
as
aisle.
Usual. Yeah, literally.
That makes you sound like you're on the Ark. That does.
Slip and slide.
There's Glyn and a female version of Glyn that looks just the same. They're walking down the water aisle together.
It was an aisle designated to water.
All right, there we go.
That's all I can tell you.
Where's Glyn? Oh, he's in the water
He's in
aisle.
the water aisle.
Glyn to the water aisle, please. Glyn to the water aisle.
So, I thought I would just get a normal bottle of water. Screw top, obviously, because that's just sensible.
Just simple, yeah.
Yeah, just how, what needed to be changed about that.
Nothing. It's never needed to be changed.
So I don't want a sports cap. I don't want to squirt the water into my face. I want to just pour it.
I want to have a drink.
I want to pour it into my mouth at whatever speed I feel like doing, and I think that's. I don't really expect much, but quite a simple task. So I thought I'll get a bottle of water. Couldn't find hardly any screw tops. I don't think I could find any, actually, with just plain water as well. Every variety of water you could possibly think of, rather than just normal water. So I had to buy a screw top and then take the lid off. Evidence.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, my God.
And now I've got no lid. So
somebody somewhere is
over.
a multi-millionaire for coming up with alternate kinds of caps for drinks.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's a fucking golem somewhere that just collects tops off bottles.
It's great for sports, hence the name sports cap, right? Quick usage.
Yeah.
Makes sense,
But
in that environment.
Every other scenario, I literally can't think of one where that would be helpful.
Don't you think
Maybe
this
the
is a
gym.
wider issue? Massively a wider issue that we seem to invent things that don't need inventing a lot of the time.
Yes.
Things that you think, well, did we really need to change that? Couldn't we just carried on with it a little bit for
like
a little bit
smart
longer?
Motorways or
Smart
roundabouts.
Smart motorways, right?
Or smart water.
No endorsements.
Not sponsors.
No
One for me
sponsors,
at the moment, guys. One for me at the moment is cars and the move to electric cars, right? Now, I understand that eventually we've got to phase out fossil fuels because it'll fucking run out one day, right?
Yeah,
I get
basically.
that. I understand that, right? Tin again run out next year, though, isn't
No.
it? Let's be honest, right?
If Greta has a way, it will.
Well, don't get me started on Thunderbird, honestly.
Thunderbird.
That girl. Anyway, different
Andy.
topic,
Sorry.
Liam. You know how to get me going, don't you?
I've known you for how long?
Oh, dear. So, with cars, I'm like, well, why don't we concentrate on something that isn't batteries? And I'll tell you why. Battery powered. Number one, who do you think the leading country in battery technology is? I'll ask you.
Well, I didn't realise I were in school.
Huh?
Pop quiz.
You'd be standing in the corner with a gun sat on, Liam.
Pop/politics quiz.
Yeah.
Not sure, mate.
It's China.
Oh, okay.
Right, of course. So the entire Western world, apart from America, is absolutely scampering towards battery technology,
Yeah.
right? Strange how that's China that's going to reap all the benefits from that. Okay. What the UK is the leading country in the world is the hydrogen fuel cell technology. Okay, JCB is one of the big advocates of hydrogen fuel cell.
I worked there for 3 days, mate.
3 whole days.
Yeah,
Glenn.
3 whole days.
Well done, mate.
Yeah, cool. Carry on.
Brilliant. 3 days.
That pretty much sums up my whole work history. Right, carry on.
Nice.
Yeah.
3 days at a time between jobs. Brilliant.
Like it.
Loving it.
Like it.
So I ask you this, right? So all these people who go, yes, but we're moving to batteries so we can save the environment and save the planet and blah, 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 blah. Okay, right. I've got you. I see what you're saying. That's bollocks. It's bollocks, though, isn't it? It's bollocks, right? And they go, well, what do you mean? You know, we're not using any fossil fuels, and we're not putting anything out into the atmosphere. We're not belching rubbish out into the atmosphere. And I simply go, right, okay. So you know when you plug your car in, right? You plug it in the wall, right? If you've had a special thing built on the side of your house and you plug it in there, right? Where do you think that fucking power's coming from? Ask yourself, where's that coming from?
Natural.
What's happening then? Is it coming from the sky, or just are you willing that power into your car, into those batteries? No, I tell you where it's coming from. It's coming from a fucking power station.
No.
Yeah, how about that for a revelation? Power coming from a fucking power station, right?
Incredible.
And I hate to break this to all you eco-warriors. Most power stations are still burning fossil fuels.
No.
Yeah. We've got some nuclear ones. We've got some windmills knocking around, right, in the North Sea, right? We've got a bit of wave power, but most of it still comes from burning a big shitload of stuff, right?
But you know, right now, there'll be Sharon driving a Fiat 500 in an electric-powered Fiat 500, and she'll just have a nightmare.
Three miles range they've got.
Yeah.
Me and my missus have been looking for a new car. We've had a new car, right? And I didn't want one, but we had a look at these electric minis. And I was like, yeah, they're pretty cool, pretty smart they are. And I says to the girl who's the saleswoman, I says, so what's the range on these now? You know, now the battery technology's improved.
Yeah.
She says, 120 miles.
What?
I said, 120 fucking miles?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I said, I live out in the middle of nowhere near Alton Towers. I couldn't get shopping back with 120 fucking miles. Absolute man, and they're trying to fucking sell us these on the premises we'd be saving the environment. And I'm sorry, one day, maybe, when all the power stations aren't fossil burning power stations, and when you can actually go, you know, 1,000 miles in your car. What if you want to do a trip across Europe? You know what I mean? You're fucked, aren't you? You literally go from village to village through France, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
One village at a time. Absolute bollocks. Absolute bollocks.
Bonjour.
But when you're thinking about the environment, if you're trying to, quote unquote, save the environment, then just destroying it slightly slower surely isn't the answer.
Very much good.
Right.
Exactly.
I love that though. It's like when you're at school and it's like, oh, we're recycling. You know, oh right, because me recycling this can of Coke is going to save the world. You know, and stuff like that. And an analogy I've always used is if you're in a room full of smokers, there's 50 people in a room and 40 smoke, and 10 people are like, oh no, clean the air. That air's going to be fucking filthy, isn't it? So no matter how your stance on it, like, I'm going to be clean, I'm not going to smoke, and the air's going to be clean. No, it's not, because there's 40 other people smoking in this room. So no matter what you do, it's going to be filthy.
It's a strange conundrum that we've created for ourselves, like Glyn says, where we're trying to save the environment by not fucking it up slightly slower. And at no point does anyone go, come on, we can do better than that.
You know what I
surely.
like? You know what I like?
I love people like Lewis Hamilton as well. My favourite, Lewis Watch. We haven't done Lewis Watch for a while.
It's been a while.
Lewis Watch, great win yesterday for him, by the way. I enjoyed that
I was going to
race.
say I caught him on the news.
I love him as a racer. Can't stand him as a human being. Just drives me insane.
Great
Full of
rapper, though.
personality.
He's constantly telling me, a working class person with no money, how to live my life when he's a multi-millionaire and one of the most famous people in the world. He tells me how to save the environment whilst flying around in his own fucking jet.
And where
right?
does he live? It's at that place where they don't pay tax. What's it called?
Monaco. There you go.
Oh yeah, you know
What's
where
his
all
job?
the rich and wealthy live.
Isn't that weird? And as I keep saying to him, you know, Lewis, if you're that bothered about equality, give all your money away to poor ethnic minorities. Give it all away. No one's stopping you. No one will go, no, you can't do that, Lewis. Get your £100 million, right? Go into the inner city and literally give it away in cash to all the underprivileged, all the people who've got no privilege, right?
Yeah.
Give it away. I'll applaud you. Brilliant. Stand by your convictions, mate. Go for it.
This is going to lead on to what we discussed the other day, actually. Richard Branson flying into space when people are dying on the streets who are malnourished.
Yeah.
So, like,
I've just realised I haven't had my headphones on
I know.
all the way
I
through
didn't
that.
want to
it's
say
probably
it,
for the
but-
best.
Yeah.
You can hear
They're
us
on now,
less.
lads. I can hear your silky voices.
So you've got a guy who decides he needs to fly into space, already one of the richest men on the planet, when people can't afford to eat.
Yeah.
Just there's people everywhere who can't afford to pay the bills, put food on the table, you know, put braces on the kids. But I'll go into space and you should all just sit there and watch me enjoy myself.
Yeah.
I just think it's
true, but
it's
I'll be
a
honest with
waste
you,
of time.
If
in my
I had
opinion.
loads of money like that, I wouldn't virtue signal and pretend that I wanted to help the masses. I'd go fly into space.
But that's
Sorry,
fine.
lads, I just would.
But that's fine. I actually think if you were saying, "Look, I don't want to help people,"
Again,
you're being quite forward about saying that.
Maybe I've phrased that wrong. Right. Okay. I don't mean that I don't want to help people. I just mean that if I want to go into space and I've earned that money through setting my company up, then I'm going to fly into space. Right. I come back down and out Marcus Rashford out when I've finished. You know, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not bothered.
Or Lewis
that's
Hamilton, because he's short of money as well.
Well, there you go. But I just think a lot of it comes down to virtue signalling at the end of the day. It's very, very easy. There was the guy out of, what's the program called? I can't remember, on Netflix. Anyways, it's a TV. It's like a Spielberg kind of series. I can't remember.
Asking me about TV shows.
Anyway,
No way.
before I just ruin the segment with not being able to remember, it's a show on TV. It's dead well known at the moment, and the guy came out now, and he's a famous actor, and he was basically championing the virtues of socialism, right? And it was like, but hang on a minute, you're sitting here saying everything should be split equally and everything should be... Give away all your money then, mate. Practice. There's nothing stopping you. We don't have to have a socialist government for you to be a practicing socialist. If you believe in these things, I'm totally on board with you. That's fine. You can believe those things. But practice what you preach. Don't sit here saying, me with no money, or Liam here with no job, or Glyn with no job. We should be practicing socialism whilst you get paid £2 million for every episode of that TV programme that you do, right? What you can do is fuck off. Right, you're a cunt. Let's be honest, you're a cunt in that situation. If you believe what you're saying, give all your money away. Give it away. No one's going to stop you. No one's going to say no. You can't do that. We're a capitalist country. Can't give your money away. No, because being in a capitalist country means you can do whatever the fuck you want with your money, mate. So give it away.
You know what he could do though if you don't want his money? He could just buy us a brew.
Oh, Liam, tell the listeners how they can buy us a brew,
See
mate.
what I did there?
This is what it's all about. That's a great link, mate.
I'll link that. No, obviously you can find us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, where you can see our handsome mugs. Or you might look at us and think, fucking hell, that Liam's got a massive forehead. You might think, oh, God,
Glyn's here today, so you've only got the second biggest forehead in the room, mate.
Sweet, get in. And obviously you can find us on all those platforms, Anger Management Studios, or you can find us on Twitter, Anger Managed Pod. And also, why not support the podcast in any way, shape or form, from £1 to £100. Like I said, that check's still not come through from Steve Jobs yet, Andy, but I do keep checking my post.
It's only a matter of time.
Richard Branson might be sending us a couple of quid, but
luck.
you never know. But honestly, yeah, any donation that you give to us supports the podcast 100%. We don't pocket it. We don't go to the pub and think, fuck all those people that donated to us. We don't. Like, it 100% goes to the podcast, microphones, lights, and obviously it helped build this beautiful studio that we are in right now.
We're going to have a first song of the podcast. We're trying to trim the podcast down a little bit this week.
Yeah.
We noticed upon recording last week with Rich, the roller coaster Sumnal, that we've been talking shit for almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
We need to trim it down a bit, guys. So those like 3 of you across the world who like it being 3 hours long, sorry, but we're going to have to disappoint you.
I got in and my missus was like, where the fuck have you been? And I was like, I've been recording podcasts. She was like, for how long? I was like, all right, okay.
If you want to cut down this episode, feel free to just edit me out completely. That'd be great.
That'd be sound. We're gonna have a track by the DDEs. I assume that's how you pronounce it. They're a bunch of lads from Manchester. Can't actually remember the name of the song. We will let you know the name of the song when we come back. I'll read you a little bit of blurb about the DDEs. Manchester band are Dan Brown. Well, Dan Brown, taking a break from writing those killer novels. Good on you, Dan.
There you go.
John Page, Paul Gallagher, staying true to the city's famous indie roots, the talented three-piece construct toe-tapping tracks formulated around face-melting riffs and haunting melodies. Anything that's face-melting gets my vote.
Yeah,
and they're from Manchester, and they've got one of them's called Gallagher.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, right.
All the boxes tick there, lads. So the DDEs, let's check it out.
Cool.
Let's have a listen.
Let's do it.
There may, Madam Deputy Speaker, be a virus one day that threatens our very way of life. But this isn't it. I want to make your flesh creep. It was Project Fear. It's been a long time at the end of the day. All locked away. I've lost my mind. I got my head in the clouds like a hurricane. All locked away. I've lost my mind. Spiral through another day. What can you say? Lose the pay. I'm feeling so alone. Gotta get it back again to the end. Beat this trend. Feeling on your own. You gotta shout. You gotta shout. You gotta stamp it out. You gotta run aground. You gotta shout. You gotta shout. You gotta get it out. You gotta stomp it out. They're coming after you at the end of the day. To stamp it out for all I said. You gotta shout. You gotta shout. You gotta stamp it out. You gotta run it out of town. You gotta shout, you gotta shout, you gotta stamp it out, you gotta run aground, you gotta shout, you gotta get it out, you gotta stamp it out. They're coming after you at the end of the day. To stamp it out for all I said. You gotta shout, you gotta stamp it out, you gotta run it out of town.
Welcome back to the Anger Management Podcast. That was the DDEs, and then the name of the song now.
Oh, go on.
It's You Gotta Shout It Out.
What?
That's the name of the song.
DDs.
Oh, you were trying to get me with that one, weren't you, Liam?
The DDs.
Old school.
So, yeah, the DDEs, I loved that. I thought it sounded like Supergrass, personally. I absolutely love.
It's a good comparison. I went grungy Supergrass, but in a good way,
Yeah,
for sure.
Liam.
Yeah,
thoughts?
no, quite good. Yeah, like I said, very Britpop, 90s-esque, Kinks sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. Kinks, 90s.
no, sorry.
Get your brain
I
sorted.
know, sorry, lads.
But only 30 years out, mate. Don't
I know,
worry.
it's all right.
Great song. Thanks.
that
Thanks
nine
for
up.
that. Thanks
you
to the
go.
DDEs for that. If you would like your music featured on the Anger Management Podcast, please get it sent in. Liam will tell you where.
Yeah, you can text us. Text the fucking. I'm going radio.
That's
mate.
gone.
I'm
Yeah,
gone
fell
now.
off.
Do you want a job? Glenn?
Draft me in.
You can text the studio on 48215. No, obviously, get in touch with us on all our social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Like I've said before, Twitter seems to be the main one. Just send us a DM. That's all you've got to do. And yeah,
A danger mouse.
yeah.
Oh, crumbs, DM.
Fuck off.
DM. That's how the kids say it, Liam.
Send us a
You're nearly
message.
30, mate.
I
Come
know,
on.
but
Slide
come
into
on.
the DMs.
Stop.
Yeah,
Stop.
slide into the danger mouses.
Stop trying to get down with the trumpets, mate.
Down with the kids.
Come on.
Sorry. Touch your 30.
Yeah, there it is. Anyway, I wanted
Moving
to touch.
on.
I wanted to touch on something that really frustrates me, being a musician and being an artist. While I don't profess to be the greatest singer in the world by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not Mariah Carey. You know,
You're pretty good though, mate. I'll give you that.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. I do.
right.
I do know that I am competent as a singer. It's been my profession for 30 years, so I know I'm not too bad at it.
Reasonable.
Yeah,
one might say.
I'm not Chris Cornell, but I'm okay.
I should hope you're not Chris Cornell.
Oh, yeah,
You'd be
that-
having reanimate me, wouldn't you?
You're about to say.
But something that kills me constantly, and this is sort of two topics in one, really. Singers who think they are the greatest singer in the world and are completely and utterly tone deaf. These are the people that are on the early episodes of X Factor every year.
I thought you said you wouldn't talk about me like that again.
Sorry, Glyn.
Damn.
Yeah, the therapist had said I couldn't bring that up.
Not again.
But you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Me and Glyn performed a couple of weeks ago at a show, and there was a certain artist on at a certain point in the show. And in 33 years of performing, I have never, ever, in all that time, heard anything that bad. Ever.
Wow.
This lady performed a song of mine, a favourite song of mine, I should say. No, I didn't write it.
Cover.
Yeah,
Andrew
it's a cover.
Stevenson cover.
It's one of my very favourite tracks, and it made me want to run out in front of a bus. It was. We counted
She was good.
three different keys that she sang it in, and none of the three were anywhere near correct.
For fuck's sake.
Oh, Liam, I've never. But I can accept people who are bad singers. Not, there's only a small percentage of people that can sing properly. That it's a gift at the end of the day. It's an art, right? Just like I can't paint, for example. I'm the worst drawer in the world. People have talents in different areas. But what I can't get is this. We've managed to create a scenario in society where people think that they're good at things that they're not, and singing is the perfect example. This person should never, ever, ever. She shouldn't sing in the shower, Liam. It should be illegal.
Fucking hell.
Right? No, Glyn. How bad was it? Please back me up here.
Yeah, it was.
It was really bad.
It was cringeworthy. And to make it even worse, all the other people that have been on the bill were all good. Right? So all the other artists were all good singers, good bands, etc., which just made it even worse.
It was challenging to listen to.
So how come she got on
That's
then?
diplomatic, mate.
Sure, well,
that is diplomatic.
I tried to exercise diplomacy.
Try, yeah.
But it was how this woman talked after the show, after she performed and before she performed.
Give us an
You would
example.
think that this person was Christina Aguilera.
Oh,
right?
she weren't a pro arse, was she?
Oh, and convinced. Obviously, no one had ever had the balls to just go, you shit.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
completely shit.
Yeah.
You take up stamp collecting or something. Just don't ever go near a microphone ever again. And she performed with her fella, didn't she? As a duo.
We weren't fucking hounds in the stream, were
he
it?
wasn't too bad. He was in comparison to her, he was like Pavarotti,
Fucking
right? But at no point, I mean, however long he's been with this girl, if this was my wife, the first time she ever opened the chops and said, "Yeah, I'll sing with you," I'd go, "Yeah, great, okay, let's hear you." And she'd say 3 words, and I'd go, "I'll stop you right there, duck. Right, stop you right there. I love you and everything, but never, ever, ever sing in my presence ever again, because that's fucking shite, right?" Why hasn't her husband said that to her, Glyn?
Maybe you wouldn't lead with that. I mean, you probably would.
I absolutely would.
Constructive criticism, like, I think it's important, definitely.
Yeah, no, I do.
But
there's no amount of constructing that will ever make that good. That's the point. Constructive criticism is great for somebody who you go, okay, I can see that. I can see where you're heading, and I can see what needs to be done to take you to the next level and make improvements. And one day you'll sit there and I'll be like, "That's really good, right?"
This is where you were 6 months ago. Yeah, this is where you are now.
If this woman had professional singing lessons from, like I say, from Christina Aguilera for the next 6 months, she would still make people jump off bridges, right? That's how shite it was.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, no, it's true though. And this happens all the time. It happens in football as well.
yeah, I was going to say this is a transfer really from whether it's singing, sports, it happens across the board. I mean, having experience of going to the USA, you get that tenfold.
Well, we'll just set the scene for listeners there, Glyn. Glyn has done a lot of work over in America, working with young people on holiday camps, isn't it?
Well,
Glyn?
it's basically summer camps. So you would class it as outdoor adventure. So there's things like high ropes, they can go water skiing, stuff like that. But whatever skills that you would have as a human being, you can take those with you and teach them effectively.
Right, so you stayed in on your own a lot then,
yeah,
did you,
and did nothing. So, cheers, mate. So, maybe this is me thinking about myself in that same way. But no, so I would say health and fitness, is something that I care a lot about. Music, other things. Oh, lots of sports, football, things like that. So you can take those skills and teach them effectively. So worked at a place in Maine and a place in Wisconsin, 2 places a little bit out in the sticks, I would say. But yeah, I had really great experiences there. But yeah, worked with a lot of people who, very talented people. But it leads back to your point of, well, there's going to be some people who aren't so good at something. And I'm a thorough believer in saying that, look, that's okay. Like, you're not very good at something,
all right.
and that's all right.
You can be rubbish at it if you enjoy it.
I'm terrible at lots of things, and I'm okay with that. Like, doesn't mean that I don't want to not try and be better at those things, but it's okay to say to someone, like, I think, what should be, maybe in a more, again, diplomatic way.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to work on that a bit, right? But
or maybe you should try something else. Let's see if you're any good at it. Because I'm a believer, Glyn, that everybody is good at something.
Yeah, right.
I'm a firm believer in that. I think you can take any person in the world, and they'll be good at something. And I think unfortunately most people never find out what they're good at, because you can't try everything, can you?
Chatting shit count. I'm just asking
you're
for a mate.
pretty good at that,
just
mate.
asking for a mate.
I'll give you that one, Liam.
Thanks.
But the point remains that I believe that people, that we as a society should have enough about us to say to people, no, that's not for you. Again, I'm trying to be diplomatic now, but saying that's not for you. Don't waste your time doing that. Find something that you are good at, that you can be decent at.
Yeah.
And I particularly believe that's the case in art forms when you're performing in front of people, particularly if it's a paying audience. You should be good at what you do. It's as simple as that. You should be good. Even if you're up and coming, a band is a perfect example. If you're up and coming and you're in a band and you've only been playing for 6 months or whatever it is, you should still have the basics down. If you've got people coming to watch you, you should still have the basics down, because people are parting with the money to watch you deliver art, and you should be competent. You should, and I believe that. But it comes back to football. Football's a great example. I don't think it exists as much in football, because if you get someone turn up for your local Sunday league side and you have your first pre-season friendly, and this person's dog shit, you know it's apparent straight away, and the manager will literally say, mate, there's no point coming because you're not going to get played.
There's definitely a difference, right? Because you've got people in music, it's artistic expression, and it's based on opinion. When you actually play a sport, there's real-time feedback telling you if
and
you're
the
actually
result
any good.
matters, of course.
So, I mean, it still happens, though, like, as you alluded to, parents. And I think that, who am I to talk about parenting? I don't have any kids, but Andy's got kids, certainly about Liam. No kids. So, like...
Got to have sex first.
I'd got to figure out what that weird thing between his legs is for.
I definitely can't comment on having kids, but I would say that as a parent, you would like to try and discuss those things with your kids, right? Like, well, maybe you're not so great at that, but let's try something else. So, and that, again, that's fine. But
my son's the perfect example for this, Glyn. I, as you guys know, I'm an avid footballer. I was a semi-pro footballer, and I played at a decent standard for my whole career before I retired. My dad was a semi-pro footballer. My great uncle was a pro footballer. It's in the family. We're footballers and we're sport mad. I still, to this day, cricket, golf, tennis, everything. My son has no interest in sport, and you know what? He's not any good. And I'm a big enough person to say my son's crap at football, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't enjoy it, and he's not very good at it. So you know what? I don't encourage him to be a footballer.
Yeah, so why would you feel the need to push that on him?
Exactly. And I don't sit there saying, son, don't play football because you're shit. But I don't push it on him. I say, all right, we'll go and play some piano, or because he's musical. He's very much like a lot of kids are these days. It's all about technology and stuff, which I don't really understand.
Yeah.
But I'll try and encourage him in that, because I know he's good at it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And Glyn's right when he allures to parents, and you see so many parents who, for some reason, they think that the kid's going to be the next Ariana Grande, and you're like, do you realize how talented that girl is, right? Whether you like her as an artist or not is irrelevant. Do you realize how unbelievably talented that girl is? And she's literally one in a billion people, right? your kid isn't going to be that person, right? So stop pushing it on them. Stop filling their heads with bullshit. And it's all this follow your dreams, right? It's all follow your dreams. You can achieve whatever you want. No, you can't.
Do you think
That's bollocks?
Do you think
That's
parents?
complete bollocks.
Do you think parents should like stop trying to compare the kid, or trying to said to the kids, "Oh, you could be like Ariana Grande, you could be like Lady Gaga, or whatever." Don't compare yourself to other people. Like, do your own thing. If you want to be a grime artist and you're from Surrey, then fair enough. Or
Go for it.
Or whatever, but like you do what you're passionate about and do what you love. And I think if you've got that passion, that drive, that determination, you're gonna put that extra 100% in or something like that. If I asked Andy to go and sweep streets, he's got no fucking bother because he's not interested. But if he were passionate about sweeping streets, we'd have clean his roads.
Job, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
you do an awesome job.
you'd do a better job.
I'm
but
a good I did play sweeper as well. I was sweeper for several of my sides at school. Our school played sweeper. Did. It was great. Like Lothar Matthäus was, but with long blonde hair. Yeah, back in the day.
Last German.
Well, yeah.
just putting it out there.
Just saying. I wanted
You were wunderbar.
I wanted to move on to a little topic that really has been frustrating me recently, and me and Liam touched on this before you arrived, Glyn. It's this: we seem to have a situation now in modern society where we are celebrating people being unhealthy and overweight. And I am not on board with that in the slightest bit. I'm going to say straight from the off, I understand there's different body shapes. People are all different.
Oh, yeah, of
there's
course.
nothing wrong with if you're curvy, if you're skinny, if you're tall, if you're small. It doesn't matter. But I feel we're approaching a point where being overweight, which is inherently unhealthy, right, is we are trying to paint that as normal and okay. And I don't believe that it is. I really don't believe that it is.
Yeah.
It's something like 90% of admissions to hospital are based around people being overweight and unhealthy, right? So the link is plainly obvious, even in layman's terms, to people like us. We're not doctors, right? But we understand. I know Glyn is massively into fitness. I know Liam ran the shop once 3 months ago and told everyone about it on the radio for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then put it all back on.
Yeah, then put it all back on again. Obviously, I'm an avid sports person. I'm not saying people who are stone overweight or something here. I'm on about people who are overweight to the detriment of the general life. And we're starting to see a point now where Liam mentioned earlier, we've got models that are being put on adverts, they're put on TV, they're put on the internet,
like catwalks and stuff like that.
These aren't people who are curvy. These are people who are unhealthy, right? And we seem to be peddling this myth that it's okay to be 10 stone overweight. And
It's not
and
health.
It's
It's
not.
about your health,
It's
though,
really
isn't it?
not.
Surely.
It's not right for yourself. It's not right for your family and your loved ones. And it's not right. I'm going to put this out there. It's not right for me to have to pay your fucking bills at hospital with my tax money. No, it's not.
It would
That's
help
not right.
the financial situation of the world, I'm sure. But you're opening up a huge topic here, bringing on someone who
That's what we do at the Anger Management podcast, mate.
onto a podcast and raise up this question because it's huge for sure. Like there's a lot of things you could say about this. I try and be on, again, the side of, well, what things can we actually do to prevent that? And a lot of it's really basic and it's not cool and it's not sexy or fun, which is what fitness has shown to the general audiences. It should be really interesting. And sometimes it's not. You just got to do the really mundane things repeatedly well.
You've got to put the grunt work in,
over periods of time. And that's it. I mean, yeah, like Andy says, there's going to be people who struggle for so many different reasons. And it's very individual. You can't just make blanket statements about that stuff. But yeah, this is huge on the internet currently in the fitness world of people commenting on things about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very current, but also quite a serious topic. The Anger Management podcast goes serious. So
it's the serious segment here on the Anger Management podcast.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say difficult things to people, right? And that's kind of what you've alluded to with the singing thing as well, right? Like, but we've got to have those conversations without people just getting really mad and pissed off. How can we actually go, well, is this a good thing? And how can we navigate it in a better way? But
absolutely, I couldn't agree more with you there, Glyn. And I think, like you say, it's not the fact that some people are overweight. It's not the fact that that some people are unhealthy that bothers me particularly. It's the way that media, social media, advertisement, it's the way that it's being portrayed at the moment that being overweight and unhealthy is okay. Because it's not okay for you as an individual. It's going to kill you. I don't know how to dress it up better than that. It will kill you. If you're 10 stone overweight, your chances of living to a ripe old age have fallen dramatically, right?
Yeah.
And these are the same people that wear face masks. Let's remember this, guys, right? These are the same virtue signalling people who sit there at 10 stone or 15 stone overweight going, yeah, I'm wearing a face mask so I don't get COVID and die. And I sit there and going, and you've how many takeaways you had this week?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sorry, but that is nothing to do with health. It's nothing to do with safety. It's simply to do with following the herd and virtue signalling, right? Because if you cared about your health, you wouldn't be 10 stone overweight, would you? Right? So it's bollocks. Again, I know I say the word bollocks a lot on this show.
Bollocks.
But it just seems like, again, I don't feel like the media should be portraying being unhealthy, being inherently unhealthy and overweight should not be portrayed as being cool and sexy.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, because it's not.
But we're also saying as well, and I think what Andy's trying to touch on as well, is like we're not saying on polar opposite end of scale, like we're not saying everyone should be stick thin.
No,
or
not
anything like
at all,
that.
not
You just
at all.
like end of the day, like obviously you're comfortable in your own skin and you do what you want to do.
People are individual people are healthy at different weights and different body sizes. Of course they are. I'm not as skinny. I've got a bit of a one pack, and Glyn's a fit bloke. He teaches fitness at the end of the day, so he's a fit guy. Me and you aren't particularly fit.
I've just got a keg.
You've got a keg brew in there. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is people. I feel like I'm a healthy person in the main. I've got a bad back, but there's nothing I can do about that, right? I feel like I'm a healthy person. I exercise frequently. I don't smoke. I very, very rarely drink, and I look after myself to the best of my ability, right? I'm never going to sit here with a six pack, mainly because I don't want to, because I like food too much. I love eating nice food, right? I'd rather have nice food than maintain a six pack. It's as simple as that, right? But what I'm not is 10 stone overweight and having to go to hospital, have my ankles rebuilt because I've had to carry weight around. Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
Happens. That's exactly that's exactly what goes down. And just, I know people, don't get me wrong, I know people who are a few stone overweight, but who are grafters and work hard and they're fit and strong. But maybe it's the job that means, if you're doing a manual job, it can often help to have a bit of weight behind you, and I'm not saying that these people aren't healthy, right? What I'm on about is the people who are grossly overweight, right?
Yeah.
And I know there's always exceptions to the rule, and there could be somebody with a thyroid problem or whatever it may be, but I'm on about 99% of cases, people are overweight and unhealthy for two reasons. One, they eat too much, and two, they don't exercise enough. It's not rocket science, guys. And I feel that as long as we in media keep promoting the fact that being overweight is cool, then this isn't going to help the situation at all.
But also the opposite becomes a problem of people being portrayed as having a six-pack as being fit and healthy. Yeah,
because it's not necessarily.
That's actually the opposite extreme end of the spectrum usually, Glyn. Which is linked to exercise addiction. And it doesn't make that person wrong for doing that, but it's not sustainable. So it's another thing that could potentially be a problem. So it doesn't make, again, either end wrong, but it's just something that we should probably think about more. But that leads into the idea of quick fixes versus things that take hard work. Like, it's really difficult to do
anything
things.
worth doing takes a bit of
It's a
sweating,
bit of
doesn't
sweat,
it, lads?
right? Yeah, that's
It's
a good.
as simple as that.
You're not going to wake up one morning and you're going to have body of your dreams, are you? Like, life just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You've got to work hard for it, like you said.
And I do want to make it apparent to those listening that we're not against, we're not griefing people who might be a bit overweight. I'm not having a go at anybody who's got a different body shape or who's a different size. That's not what we're trying to say. Well, not what I'm trying to say anyway. I'm just trying to say that we should stop peddling being unhealthy as being cool and being fashionable.
It's
that
almost
should not be happening.
Irrelevant when you're thinking about, are you overweight? Have you got a six-pack? They're my two extreme examples. But then you could go, well, it's not really that what we're talking about. It's, are you making, your lifestyle factors, the choices that you're making day to day are going to lead you in one direction or the other, generally. So can we just make better decisions? Yeah. I think, and that's
it is 2021. When was the last time a good decision was made? It's been a while.
A while ago.
Let's be honest. I want to play another song, guys. We're gonna have a song by an artist called Pennan, Brae, and we've been sent this track. I'll tell you, I've got the track name this time, guys. I've actually written it down this time. It's called El Camino.
El Camino.
El Camino, yes. Haven't listened to this. I have no idea what it's
car,
like.
Right?
We've got a little. Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
a
I think
car.
so.
Yeah.
Little bit of blur. Pennan Brae has released 9 albums.
Wow.
Which his most recent being Cinema. His 2 films stream on Amazon Prime Video, The Astronaut and 2 Below Zero. So sounds like a multi-talented gentleman.
Yep.
So thanks for sending this in to us, Pennan.
Stylistically, what are we
I
talking
have
about
absolutely
here?
no idea.
Not sure. Okay, cool.
He is located in Vancouver, though. Maybe a Canucks fan. I don't know.
Have we gone across the pond again?
Senators fan here, mate. So you should be
some
privileged that I'm
grief.
playing a Canucks song on this.
Canucks.
So we'll get to it. This is Pennan Brae. Let's check it out, guys.
Enjoy.
Let's hop in and take the El Camino. Drop it down to the big flamingo. 2 blocks south west of Mendocino. Just 3 miles past the Cappuccino. I think I'm starting to fall. Believe I'm locking it out. Feeling 10 feet tall. In the long haul. Girlfriend's name is Miss Angelino. She hot wires, fires my libido. Keeps things warm, just like the El Nino. She's my lovely, sexy Valentino. Feels like it could be time. Bells are starting to chime. Feels like the rhythm rhymes. Like I could stop on a dime. What I'm feeling, let me reeling. You've been stealing, got me kneeling. When you said we were through and that there wasn't no more, knocked me right on the floor. I was grieving, late this evening, not perceiving, disbelieving. When you said it was done and that there wasn't no more, walked out right through the door. Sha-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la. Think I need a double cappuccino. After that, catch some Tarantino. Perhaps I
Welcome back to the Anger Management Podcast with
Here we
me, Andy Stevenson.
Me, Liam Simcox.
And me, Glyn Mellor.
Yeah, there it is. Put you on the spot there, Glyn, and you survived. Brilliant.
I'm wiping my brow for people that listen to the audio.
That was Pennan Brae with El Camino. I really enjoyed that track as well.
Yeah.
Another absolute belter.
Yeah, my
here
favourite
on
so
the
far.
podcast. I thought that was great. Pennan Brae can be found in all the usual places. He's on Facebook,
Spotify, iTunes, all that sort of
So
thing.
is this one gentleman, or is this a band,
I
or is that the
think
band
this
name?
is one gentleman, yeah,
Cool.
Pennan Brae. The photos on his Facebook page seem to
Okay.
be of him. Pennan all the way from Vancouver, Canada. So thanks very much for sending us
Yeah.
that in. I really enjoyed that.
We are an international podcast, by the
Well,
way.
yes.
Oh.
Strangely, even though we are the number 2 podcast in Uganda, no one sent us any Ugandan music
No.
yet. I'm quite disappointed.
Not
So
yet.
you Ugandans, we know you love us. Get us some of your
Send it
music
over.
in. We have no idea what Ugandan music's like, so we
No.
would definitely love to feature some here on the Anger Management Podcast. I'd be fine.
Definitely.
So I wanted to move on to a topic I wanted to discuss, guys, which is people who have no, I call it life sense. So these are the kind of people who you talk to them and you wonder how they manage to get through every single day because they have no knowledge of life at all, of how things work or how you pay your bills or how you sort out when something goes wrong, how you sort it out, right?
Yeah.
Like they've lived in a cave
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
age of like 35, and then they've popped their head out and gone, all right, okay, what's going on here then? What do I do? And these kind of people kill me every time. I'll start with an ex-girlfriend of mine. I won't mention her name. She was lovely, actually. She was from Watford, okay?
All right, okay.
And she was a proper Watford lass. Babe. She was one of them. Babe.
All right, babe.
Babe.
You fancy me?
She was one of them. That was an
That were
impression
Brummie,
that,
weren't
that
it?
didn't sound German then, Liam. Well done,
On
mate.
the beaches.
Liam's the only person in the history of Winston Churchill impressions to do a Winston Churchill impression that sounded like he was doing Hitler.
The irony.
It
right?
was
Yeah.
insane.
The Optimus Prime one's not bad though, is
yeah,
it?
do your Prime.
My name's Optimus Prime.
Yeah, we like that one.
The Decepticons.
That's good. That's actually really good.
I love
like
that your
that.
face lights up on the radio.
yeah, I
Every
love it, I
Saturday
love
it's
it.
like, do the Optimus Prime,
Do,
Liam. Just
do
do the
Optimus,
Prime.
Liam. It makes me day every time. Brings a little smile to my face.
Nostalgia.
So Jade was one of these people, and Jade was. It's horrible to say thick. I've just said a name as well again.
I'm about
haven't
to say, I
But
thought
I'm
you were
sure
about to say
she
what
wouldn't
I
you
was
mind.
thinking that.
I'm sure she wouldn't mind.
Could've slipped it up with that.
Jade was one of the funniest people I've ever met. She was just funny all the time, right? With that accent as well, which made it
remember
even
it.
funny. You remember her, Glyn?
Yep.
She's just funny all the time. But Jade was one of those people who sometimes I just used to think, where have you been your
Yeah,
entire
yeah.
life? Like, have you just had your head in a washing machine or something? Where have you been? And this is the kind, she'd never heard of JFK. JFK, right? Didn't know who Margaret Thatcher was.
Don't they make diggers?
Didn't
no, that's JCB,
didn't know
love.
didn't know who the Beatles were. Didn't know who the Beatles were. I had to
Wow.
introduce
Yeah.
her to the Beatles, right?
That's unusual. I
But
must
she
say.
was
Yeah, about
one
to
of
say.
these people, and I
It's a bit
just
odd.
used to think, how do you have no pop culture like knowledge at all? And the story I'm going to tell is it was from a Christmas years ago. My car had broke down and was in the garage. So
Strange.
yeah,
That never happens, does it?
shock
I was about
horror,
to say.
me and cars. So we'd had to go on the bus to do some Christmas shopping up in the city, right? So we go, and I hate buses. They're everything I can't stand. Loads of people, cramped, claustrophobic. I just hate it at the best of times. So we're coming back. It's like 8 o'clock in the evening,
Yeah.
the night before Christmas Eve, I think it was. And this bus is rammed. And we're standing up, me and Jade. We'd actually, because I always do this, and listeners, if you're a young person listening, you should always do this. Give up your seat to old people, right?
Yeah.
That's something that never happens anymore, but you should, right? And we'd given up our seats to an old couple so that they could have a sit down. And we're coming through a place called Bucknell, right? You guys know Bucknell. It's
Yeah.
sort of on the outskirts as you come out of the city. And there's a Chinese takeaway in Bucknell, and it's called the Great Wall, right? Okay, so we're driving. You got to remember this bus is packed in. Jade, Glyn can remember Jade. When Jade spoke, it was never in hushed tones.
Oh,
We'll put it like that. It was just loud as fuck all the time, right?
What was she like in the sack? Loud as fuck.
I'm not going to
moving
say
on.
anything there.
Sorry,
Liam. My wife listens to this podcast, so
never
I'm going
mind.
to cut you off there, mate.
Sorry.
Tumbleweed.
Oops.
Jinx.
Oops.
Nice. So we drive. We go past on this bus, and I'm uncomfortable anyway. All these people on there, it's grim. And I just remember she looks out the window. She goes, "Babe, babe."
Fucking trigger
And
warning.
I said,
Jesus.
What, Jade? What's up? And she says, why the fuck would you call your Chinese restaurant a great fucking wall in front of 100 people on this bus? And I looked at her expecting her to laugh, and she's just going with this frowning face on.
Dead
obviously.
serious.
And I went, the Great Wall. And she went, yeah, the Great fucking Wall. I was like, the Great Wall, and I could see all these people looking at her, going, oh my God, what a moron. And I goes, the Great Wall of China, Jade, the only visible object from space built by man. And she went, never fucking heard of it, babe. And I was like, how can you possibly be an adult and never have heard of the Great Wall of fucking China?
How old was
right?
she at this point?
Oh, I don't know, mate. Maybe 20, something like that, 19, 20, right? And that's the kind of person that I'm on about here, right? And like I say, Jade was great. She was cool and she was funny. But God, she was thick sometimes. And I don't understand how you can, especially in this day and age where information is so readily available.
Yeah.
How can you get through your life?
How can you get it so wrong, though? Like, what Great Wall?
What great fucking wall? Yeah, honestly. And
But isn't that the kind of question you might just ask to you quietly, like you said?
well, that's what I mean. Yeah. But why is it called the Great Wall of China?
Because
And I'd have been like,
White Walkers live beyond there.
yeah.
The wildlings.
No shame.
People like that. It just kills me. I don't understand how you get through your life not knowing. I mean, it's not going to kill you to not know what the Great Wall of China is. But I mean, if you're at a party what conversation do you have with your friends? If you're that thick, what do you say to your mates? Do you know what I mean? What do you talk about?
You don't have to say anything these days. You just send a text.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you have to think about it and send a text. Yeah, that's absolutely.
You don't have to think on your feet anymore.
That's absolutely
But
true.
shouldn't you have known this kind of stuff from school, or just like?
Well, I don't. Maybe she just didn't ask go in school. I
What's
don't
a school,
know.
babe?
School, babe? What's a school? Fucking school.
I was actually thinking about recently school systems, and when you learn at school, you go, well, in geography, what did I actually learn about? I can't really remember learning
Precipitation.
about other countries and things like that, honestly.
Not really.
I think
the weather cycle.
my favourite part of geography was Oxbow Lakes. Do you know what an Oxbow Lake is?
No idea.
Well, let me tell you about that.
Ooh.
That shit. Yeah, incredible. So, if you think of the Amazon River, right, so it's kind of weaving back and forth.
What's the Amazon River, babe?
Amazon fucking
Where
river,
did you
babe.
fucking got that from?
So,
Sorry.
I'm done. So, it's swerving backwards and forwards. So, essentially, when it cuts back into itself,
Right.
because it's meandering that much, and it creates like a separate little lake.
Right, so it's like a double-backed river, and then creates a little
And that's
pond.
an Oxbow Lake.
Right.
There you go. Education.
There
Well,
we
you
go.
know.
That's all I remember from geography,
We
though.
even
Hence the
offer
bad grade.
educational programs here on the Anger Management Podcast. Anyone that wants to donate for our educational programs can get in touch. Where, Liam?
Yes, you can find us in the link tree down below, wherever you listen to this podcast or watching our handsome mugs on YouTube. You can find us in the link tree and just support us in any way, shape, or form simply by buying us a brew.
Nice.
Liam, we did have a Graham poll last
did.
week.
We
Are you
did.
going to look up the answers?
I'm going to look up the
You're going to look up the
You've got
result
me
for
saying
us.
it.
The
Fuck's
answers.
sake.
Look up the result for us. We had one of our regular listeners, Liam Vainsy. Shout out again to Vainsy. He is actually coming on the podcast, possibly next week or the week after. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. Vainsy wanted to continue our question from season 1, which was, where do you keep your juice? Which was either the cupboard or the fridge.
And there was a
Fridge won.
mad debate last week, weren't there? Like,
So- Sorry, Liam, I'm cutting
it's
you
all
off.
right. No,
it
just
was
carry on.
it was Vainsy just simply wanted to know, carrying on from that, where we keep our chocolate. Right?
Yes.
You'd gone for in the cupboard.
I'd gone for the cupboard.
I'd gone for in the fridge.
Yep.
I think Rich went for a sock drawer or something.
Oh,
I
don't know.
can't
It
even
was
remember what Rich
something
said.
crusty, I think.
But those were, I think we had those
Bit
two
weird.
options and other, didn't we?
No, we just had them two options because
how-
that's into the general consensus.
How have the public voted on this one?
Well, the people have been voting, and there's one clear winner. And with 60% of the vote, our listeners think that chocolate is kept in the cupboard.
Oh, you're wrong.
I'm a hybrid
Never.
guy. Like,
Oh, you're a hybrid,
it depends on the chocolate. We can
Right,
get into the
okay.
details, right? But some is better refrigerated, without a doubt.
I like anything that you sort of break, like dairy milk needs to be in the fridge, I think. That's what I'm going for. But I like all chocolate in the fridge, I'll be honest.
I won't
like their
discriminate
chocolate
about different types of chocolate. So yeah,
Chocolatism.
Other chocolates are available.
but be healthy.
yeah.
We will be
Make
having
better choices.
we will be having another Graham poll later in the show, which we will put to our listeners for this week.
Yes.
It's something we do every week, and we do get a lot of feedback from
We
it,
do
and,
actually,
and it's
yes.
good. So thanks for everybody who votes on that, and we'll put our new poll to you later in the show. I wanted to come to another point of mine. This is another group of people. There's certain people that pissed me off this week. And this one was, I played a show on Friday. It was a cracking show. And I was talking to a few people before and after the gig. And there was a gentleman that turned up, right, at the table that I was talking to. And he was this, we all have met this guy. He's the guy who thinks he's an expert banterer, right?
Oh, Steve.
Well, we'll call him Steve, that'll do.
Steve and Sharon.
Right? He's the guy who basically thinks he's Peter Kay, right?
Oh,
he thinks
no.
he's the sharpest
Comedian.
banterer in the world. But more often than not, he's a little bit special, right? And more often than not, nobody has the slightest idea what the
he's on
things
about.
the things that he's saying.
Yeah.
You can see people going and like doing that polite laugh. You know, the polite laugh, which of course I won't do.
And nod.
So I sat there, and he started on, and he was on about, talking about a bucket or so. I can't remember what it was. And I sort of clocked him straight away, and I had a glance at him, and he had that, they've got that like little bit of, they'll say something and that little anticipation of people laughing at
Oh,
them.
and then they look
That
around as well to be like, is anyone laughing?
And the few people that
Vibing.
knew him were obviously used to him saying something that was total nonsense and made no sense at all. But because he thinks he's Peter Kay and like a man about town, they'd give him a polite laugh. And he said something to... I was having a conversation with this woman and I'd said something, whatever it was, and she'd been laughing. And he butted in. And he said this random piece of crap. It wasn't even part of the conversation. And he said this random piece of bollocks, whatever it was. And then he looked at her and she did this little chuckle. And he looked at me and I just went and stared at him blankly. And he went, "What's up, mate?" I was like, me being me,
What do you want me
I
to
just
do?
went, I don't know what you just said, mate. I don't understand what you just said. And he went, "Oh, well, because it's a bucket, isn't it? A bucket, like." And I was like, "Yeah, don't make any sense, that don't make." And like the table fell silent, you know what I mean? And he's so used to everybody giving him this laughter for stuff that makes no sense.
And everyone was pulling the collars of the shirts.
yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, bloody hell."
Looking at the watch thinking, oh,
And I
fucking
was
hell, come
like,
on.
"No, mate, I don't know what you're going to have to
Oh,
explain
no.
it, mate. You're going to have to." So then he tries to explain this nonsense, and everybody's sitting there going, "Yeah, this is
Never
a bit
explain a joke
comfortable."
if it's not funny.
Exactly.
Don't explain it.
And those, I can't deal with them kind of people. I can't hack it. I always feel uncomfortable around them. Does that make sense? To the point where
Yeah.
I actually got up, I let him explain his joke, and then I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go play some more songs. See you
that
in a
was
bit."
shit. See you in a bit.
Yeah. And
At least
and
you
I
had an
left.
out.
Well, yeah. The people that know him must have to suffer this all the time. But I've met loads of them over the years, and I always feel they're trying to compensate for something
Yeah,
somehow.
trying too hard.
Maybe they were, I don't know, picked on at school or something, or somebody once told them they weren't funny, so they spent the rest of their lives attempting to be
Or
funny.
they couldn't sing. You should just give up being a singer and
Yeah,
go and be a
it's my
comedian.
fault, probably.
Go and be a comedian. Yeah, all right.
I wanted to come to something that Liam had touched upon earlier, and this will take us on to our new regular segment, which is the weekly Woke Watch. Liam had read an article about pregnant men.
Yeah.
Pregnant men.
No,
Liam.
they're bringing out fucking, obviously, because, down with the kids and using emojis and all that bollocks. And they're bringing out a pregnant man emoji.
A pregnant man emoji.
Emoji, yeah.
Emoji. What? Explain emojis again. They're them things that you put on text messages.
Emoticons,
Oh,
they're called back in the day.
The emoticons. Yeah. So, and it's just
they're like an ethnic minority of Decepticons.
And it's like, they're basically using it for like transgender women that are now men that are pregnant. But I can just.
But they're not. But you can't be a man and be pregnant now, can you? That doesn't exist.
But it does if where there's money to be made, Andy. So
right, okay. And again, as we've reiterated many times on this podcast, we support the transgender community. It's not even that I support or don't support it. I couldn't give a fuck.
No,
right?
same.
If you want to be a transgender human being, that's absolutely fine by me. I couldn't care less. If you're a nice person, you're a nice person. I'll even use whatever pronouns you want. If you want to be called a tree, I'm on board with it. Not a problem at all, guys. Absolutely fine if it makes you happy. But I'm not ever going to sit here and say that men can be pregnant, right?
Yeah, but
because you can't. You can identify as a man. If you're a woman, that's fine. But if you're pregnant, you're still a woman that's pregnant that identifies as a man. Sorry, but that's just science.
I mean,
right?
don't get me wrong. I'll be using them emojis, but simply because I'm fat. So it's like, just had a takeaway tonight.
They've made a Liam emoji. That's it.
Pregnant man. Yeah, that's
Liam
me.
emoji.
Maybe not its intended usage, but
Yeah, there you go. That's it. And everyone's like, oh, it represents this community. I'm just like, no, it's because I'm a fat bastard, basically.
Yeah,
so we'll
that's
just
it.
use it that way.
So you're not on board with pregnant men then, Liam, basically?
I just think it's a bit weird, isn't it? Like, I mean, if it's just used for, just add fucking chow mein and now I'm fat, hashtag Chinese, and then fat man emoji, pregnant man emoji, we're laughing. That's how we use it.
Don't you think that this brings us back to what we were on about earlier about media promoting things that basically aren't true? And we touched earlier about how being overweight and unhealthy shouldn't be promoted as being a positive thing.
Yeah.
And we're just promoting things here that aren't true. And like I say, if you're a female that now identifies as a man and you're pregnant, again, that's fine. That's what you want to get on. That's fine. I've got no problem whatsoever. I'm happy for you, right? But let's not be teaching children, for example, that this man is pregnant, because that is not true. It's simply not true.
Yeah, fundamentally, biologically makes no sense.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It makes no sense at all. And I feel we're in a society now where truth and logic and common sense just doesn't seem to be at the foreground anymore. And I find that sad. I find that a sad thing.
It always brings me back to that scene from Monty Python, Life of Brian. And he's like, I want to be a woman. As a man, it's like, I want to be a woman. Why? I want to have babies. You can't have babies, you haven't got a womb. So it's like...
That's it, and that's what it boils down to. But it brings us on to our new segment, the Weekly Woke Watch. Last week we touched upon Star Wars.
Yes.
This week I want to touch upon the, quite frankly, insane news of New Zealand's Laurel Hubbard, who lives in a cupboard. No, I couldn't resist there, guys. Sorry.
Eating the Curzon Way.
Yeah,
Mother Hubbard.
Laurel Hubbard is a transgender athlete who now identifies as a female. So she used to be a male and was also a male weightlifter and competed many years as a male weightlifter right into her mid-20s, 26, I think. And then she decided to become a woman, okay? Fine, no problem. Whatever you want, again, get on with it. If that makes you happy, fine by me.
Yeah.
What doesn't make me happy is now Laurel Hubbard has been selected by New Zealand to represent them at the Tokyo Olympics as a female weightlifter, right? I can't believe I actually have to say these words. I sometimes think I'm going to wake up and somebody's going to go, I'm just having you on, mate.
Yeah.
Right?
Unplug your fat matrix.
Is pure insanity. And the Olympic Committee yesterday, or it might have even been this morning, have confirmed that she will be allowed to represent New Zealand. So this basically means that this person who's competed as a man, as a weightlifter for all this time, is now competing against women. Laurel Hubbard has won countless competitions already as a female because, biologically, she's not a female.
Yeah.
Right? As someone who is an avid sports person, right, I find this ludicrous. I find this shocking. In fact, I find it disgusting. I'll put it out there. I think it's disgusting. Me and Liam are big proponents of women's sport.
Definitely,
we talk about women's sport on our radio show, and we're in an environment at the moment in 2021 where we're trying to do everything to build women's sport, and we've made huge strides over recent years.
Yes.
Women's football, women's cricket, women's rugby, all kinds of different sports. And I've got close friends who are avid sports women, right? And to a person, they're shocked that this is being allowed to happen, right? Now, I'm not saying that Laurel Hubbard shouldn't be allowed to compete in sport, right? She's a human being, right? And she should have the same right to compete in sport as any one of us in this room, right? But she should not be competing against women in women's sport. It's frankly ludicrous.
Yeah.
We've touched upon this on our sports show, Liam.
Yes.
On the radio. Do we think that it's time for transgender athletes to have their own categories in competition like the Olympics?
Very
Glyn,
good point.
as a trainer and a sports person, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, wow, it's there's multiple intricacies to the whole thing for sure, but yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I agree with what you were saying, that it doesn't really make sense for someone, especially who's competed prior in the male category. I'd have some thoughts would be, well, if they hadn't competed ever at all, you could then maybe say, well, maybe it's still not, you don't agree with it, but you could see maybe that, well, I've never competed as a male or a female. So competing as a female, I now identify as a female, I'll compete. Again, is that fair? Probably not. But I would understand that more. But yeah, definitely from a biological perspective, there's going to be differences. And again, that's it's fine. And it just exists. Like there's differences between male to male, female to female, or what, however
there's differences between every single one of us. That's the whole premise of competitive sport of any kind. The fact that the fact that we're all different makes competitive sport work, because if we were all the same, we'd all be at an equal level at everything, and no one would ever be able to win anything, and sport wouldn't exist.
People running in a straight line.
Exactly. But for me, I truly believe that it's time we had categories for transgender athletes.
Yeah.
I will put it out there. Why don't we ever hear of any females that have transitioned to being males and want to compete in the Olympics in men's sport?
Yeah,
and then there we go. But it doesn't happen, does it?
No.
Because they wouldn't stand a chance competing against the men in the same competition.
No.
So the proof is right there in the pudding. And I say to people who think that this is fair and this is okay, I say, let's say Anthony Joshua decided he wanted to identify as a woman, right? World heavyweight boxing champion, right?
Bit like a brick shit
I know it sounds ridiculous, but you never know. It could be anybody, right? Anthony Joshua comes out and he says, right, I've decided now I want to be Antonia Joshua, right? Fine, you crack on with it, Anthony. Would you people who are okay with Laurel Hubbard lifting weights, would you people be okay with Anthony Joshua then stepping into the ring, right, with his shorts and his crop top on, right, with his biceps like Bournemouth, and fighting against women? Because all that would happen was the first punch he threw that connected would kill the woman that he was fighting, right? That's basically what would happen.
Or just knock her clean out with one punch.
Yeah, and there'd be a high chance of serious injury, right? Even again, and don't get me wrong, some of the women boxers are absolutely fucking
badass.
brilliant
Oh,
and hard as nails. But even the best female boxer in the world, if she was punched by Anthony Joshua, there's a high likelihood she'd die, lads. At least be seriously injured.
Or there'd be a massive uproar.
So are we okay with that as a society?
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Would we be okay with that if that happened?
No, definitely not.
So-
I won't want to say, if it were your daughter.
So society can't have it both ways,
But
then?
for the sake of political correctness, people try and justify it
Yeah.
and say, well, these things are okay because it sits in line with the common thread.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make it right, in my opinion. But it's a conversation that needs to be had. It's not just, oh, well, this is okay, and if we say anything to the contrary, then we're bad people. And that's how things have turned out, though, right? Like if you disagree with it, it just makes you a horrible person. It's like, well, no, I'm just trying to think logically.
I'm going to come straight out here, and I'm going to say this quite simply sums it up for me. Laurel Hubbard is a cheat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you're a cheat. This is a 43-year-old person, by the way. This isn't somebody in the prime. That's 3 years older than me. And you go into the Olympics where you'll win the gold medal at 43 years old. Really?
And you've been weightlifting for the last 30 years.
Yeah, really? You're a cheat, Laurel Hubbard. I'm sorry, right? If you were competing in your own in a transgender category,
not a problem.
Absolutely fine. I'd get behind you.
Yeah.
I'd probably even watch it when the Olympics were on, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. But as it stands at the moment, what you're doing is you're taking a medal away from a woman who has trained all her career, right, and sacrificed and got to the pinnacle of her game, and you are taking a medal away from that woman there in women's sport, and I find that disgusting. I'm sorry, guys,
it's like the
but
Paralympics as well, isn't it? Because obviously, like,
it's like the South Park episode where Cartman enters into the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So shall we start? If I sit here and say I identify as having a disability now, so you've got to let me in the Special Olympics. You know what I mean? But you haven't got a disability, Mr. Stevenson.
But
I identify as having a disability, so you've got to let me in.
Yeah,
it's lunacy.
It's a thing for me is like if women that have trained for 20, 30 years, like obviously born a woman and are currently a woman, and if they're going against people like that, I'd be thinking, well, what's the point? Why? Because I'm not going to win. I could train 8 hours a day every day for a year, and I'd still get nowhere near.
I'm going to be beaten by somebody who's spent the last 20 years competing as a man. Yeah, I mean,
and I'd just be thinking, well, what's the point?
There's something to be said in terms of specialists in a category like weightlifting.
Yeah.
Like if you were to take a male and a female against each other and their capabilities in clean and jerk and the snatch, which would be the two things to be tested at the Olympics. And then you could like take that to your average Joe gym. I 100% guarantee there will be stronger women in that gym than stronger men.
Yeah,
100%.
Of course.
I've seen it with my own eyes a gazillion times.
We're talking at the peak of competition
and I get this, right? We're talking elite level, and you're saying, well, how, if both of these people were committed to training full-time as an athlete for that specific goal, there's definitely going to be discrepancies.
Like I say, Glyn, the proof is in the pudding there. Laurel Hubbard won nothing as a male competitor and wins everything as a female competitor. So what's the one thing that's changed? The training hasn't changed, right? There's only one thing that's changed. She's not competing against men anymore. That's all it is. So I don't know. I feel we've opened, as a society, a box of worms on this one, guys. I'm not sure.
But we did pitch this to our radio listeners, didn't we, Andy? And the resounding poll result was for them to have their own
category. Absolutely. And I think that's something as a forward-thinking society we should definitely bring in. If it ended up we had a group of aliens that came and lived on this planet, right?
Yeah.
And they were stronger than us, for example. Maybe in 100 years we'd be like, well, yeah, you can be part of the Olympics, but you'll have to have your own category, else you'll just rinse us all. Yeah,
pretty much.
But I know it's a ludicrous example.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying.
But the premise remains there, right?
Yeah.
So like if we had a load of Klingons, right, and they're all stronger than us, you'd be like, yeah, you probably best have your own weightlifting category, guys, because you'll just beat us all up. You know what I mean? That makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that would be a good plan. We're going to have another song. We're going to go here to Glyn's old band that he used to play in called Mike TV. Tell us a little bit about your time in Mike TV, Glyn.
So, yes, it is a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory reference. No, it wasn't my decision. I joined Mike TV. Wow, when was that? I
bet it was about 12 years ago.
Yeah, so I was probably like 20, 21 at the time. And we'd actually probably just started Round in Circles at that point. So, yeah, I managed to do a whole bunch of touring around the world, which was a very enjoyable
Glyn
thing
went
to
and
do.
did an amazing tour in China where he failed to pull any single one of the 500 million Chinese women.
We were talking about the Great Wall here, mate. So, well, the Great Wall between me and Chinese women.
Chinese women, yeah.
Literally, I went to Beijing and didn't get to go to the Great Wall. How
Wow.
crazy is that?
Why is
Wow.
it called Beijing if it's not beige?
And I love them to death. I love them to
Sorry.
death. But they'd already been there before when they
Right.
went previously.
Right.
So I had to either go on my own or not go.
Yeah.
So I decided to not go.
Oh, you should have gone.
I should have just gone on my own,
see.
shouldn't I? I probably would do now. But anyway, spent a lot of time in that band, recorded an album, EP, numerous things that are on all the available platforms still. But yeah, did a lot of touring in Europe. Was fortunate enough to travel to China and other areas of the world playing music. And we never really gained any success, particularly in the mainstream.
I thought
but-
you were a brilliant band. I'll be honest, my kind of music. Introduce the song for us, Glyn.
Okay, cool. So this song's called Myoclonic Jerk, and it's off the album Sausage Hospital, which is available on, again, like iTunes,
All the usual places.
all the usual places. But yeah, this was a song that we wrote for that album. Again, I don't even know how many years ago that is. I should have prepped this stuff, right?
Good while.
So yeah, a good while ago. I'll do a little shout out to Dom, John, and Richie if they ever listen to this. They probably won't, but all
You never
good.
know.
Maybe I'll send them a
Maybe
link.
they're living
Yeah.
in Uganda.
So
That's why we're number 2.
So yeah, the song's called Myoclonic Jerk. We're basically a punk rock band. I say Green Day crossed with the Beach Boys. That was always my
Interesting.
like a little kind of
Glyn
synopsis.
is playing drums and doing some backing vocals on this.
Yeah, so I play the
record.
drums, bit of backing vocals. Yeah, hopefully you guys will enjoy it.
Let's check it out. Mike TV.
Declaration of a broken heart, and I knew it was a hiccup from the start. Imagination's going off the chart, 'cause I'm never coming back for your love. Started back in 92, I was full of attitude, way oh, way oh. Girls kept on breaking my heart, kept on breaking my way oh, way oh. From Sandra to Tony to Billy, Leone, I was a tart. But I wanted something to add, I really needed you all worlds apart. And I'm flying into sleep, 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 sleep. Falling into terrors, close my eyes and kill the sheep. Fell in love, it's with my myoclonic jerk. Holds me in my arms. Oh, night, I'm freaking out about this guy. Now it's time to let go. Got me jumping out my skin. Fell asleep alone again, Romeo. Where are you then? Way oh, way oh. You kept on waking me up, kept on waking me. Way oh, way oh. A spasm, a tremor, a dreamt up dilemma. You're not enough. Shudder at the thought of you walking across my grave is true. Myoclonus. And I'm flying into sleep, 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 sleep. Falling into terrors, close my eyes and kill the sheep. Fell in love, it's with my myoclonic jerk.
Welcome back to the Anger Management Podcast with me, Andy Stevenson.
Me, Liam Subcox.
And me, Glyn Mellor.
There we go. We've got it down to a T now, guys, haven't we?
Sorted.
Absolutely spot on. That was Mike TV with the song, say it, Glyn.
Myoclonic Jerk.
Myoclonic Jerk. I love that song. I loved it when you first released it all those years ago, and I still do. It's ace. It's got that awesome bass solo in, amazing harmonies, and everything that I love in a song.
Dude, incredible musicians. Loved playing in that band. So yeah,
Fantastic. I assume people can still check out that song in the usual places.
Yeah, they can get that song, and they can also, if they know how to spell myoclonic, we'll put it in the show
Just
notes,
put
right?
Mike TV.
You can find that video on YouTube. We recorded a music video for that song as well.
Fantastic. Check it out, guys. That's Mike TV. I wanted to come to Glyn about something that he wanted to discuss, which is overnight success stories. And how it seems in the modern day we don't really have to work for anything anymore, Glyn.
Pretty much. I'll go into it with a story. I know you would approve of that, Andy. So
I love a good story.
me and my old man, me and my dad were watching a band
Ting.
play.
We don't have a bell here.
No.
Ting, the old
What's that
man
for?
reference. Every time I mention my old man, we get a ting.
I feel like I got that phrase from you anyway. I definitely used to say dad, but hey. So me and my old man.
Ting.
Damn.
I love
So we
that. Sorry. I do want to do it then.
Expectation. So yeah, anyway,
Sorry.
so we went to watch a cover band play, and that actually gave me a reference there because I'm looking at your Nirvana vinyl over there.
Okay.
Is that we went to watch a Nirvana tribute act
Right.
at the Club 11 in Tunstall.
Oh yeah, in Tunstall, yeah.
Yeah, so
good,
we went-
good venue. Shout
Yeah,
out
cool.
to
I
11.
think we should
Really
play
good
there,
place.
just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, definitely.
So we went to watch this band, and they were really good, in all honesty, and a very difficult band to imitate.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure, right? Like, how do you imitate Nirvana? I mean, they did a very good job of it. But I was just chatting to my dad, and I just stood there thinking, and I was like, you know what? I actually really appreciate more than ever, and in this sense, we're talking music and musicians, but how much hard work Nirvana had to do to get to where they were.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking about an age before the internet. I mean, the internet existed,
So
right?
it would have
but
been,
what
I mean,
was on there?
Nirvana started in like 87 or 88, didn't they?
Sure. Yeah, like I'm thinking from when I first was introduced to Nirvana, like a lot of people would have probably been Nevermind, right?
Yeah.
Like early 90s. So, and I was very young at that point, so thanks, Dad, for playing me some good music. But I said, you know what? I really appreciate the fact that they turned up. Like, you know, they were in the back of a van selling cassette tapes to people. They actually had to work really hard. There was no advertising on the internet. They'd have to go around putting up posters, recording things, actually doing things in the real world.
Yeah.
Which just, again, seems to be a complete
Well,
parallel.
it's alien.
Yeah, like the
to
real
now.
world doesn't really exist anymore. It's actually just the internet's become the real world.
Even at my gig on Friday, the owner of the pub where I played, she simply said, I haven't put any posters up, I've just advertised it on social media. And the place was packed.
Yep.
Oh, fair enough.
And there you go. The physical promotion almost doesn't exist
I mean,
at
it's
all.
a tool to be used, right? And fine. But it just made me think about that and how there's so many people, especially in the music industry. It's a big, like a big difference now to what it used to be like. But yeah, people don't have to work hard. They can, yes, you have to have some talent, agreed. Or, well, maybe even that's debatable, but you can release something on the internet and literally become an overnight success with zero hard work, no intentions.
Well, I'm going to put out there. I'm going to put out the phenomenon of Instagram models, right?
Influencers and all that shit.
So you think back 20 years or 30 years, how difficult it must have been to establish yourself as a model, right? Let's just say a fashion model, right? I wouldn't even know where would you start? I don't even know what you would do.
I haven't got a clue. Go to an agent, right? I guess.
Yeah.
I imagine.
A real
Can you
person.
imagine how much work you would have to do for free a lot of the time, and just to get your foot in the door of like an agency or something, whatever it would be? Now, literally, you take a picture with a phone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With modern technology, we're recording this on an iPhone right now, and the
Hypocrites.
picture's fine,
Yeah.
right? You take a picture on a phone, you make an account on Instagram, and all of a sudden you can have a gazillion followers and you're making a living. And like you said, how much work's gone into that? Really?
None.
Yeah, you clicked a button.
Yeah,
Well
yeah,
done.
that's
clicked
it.
a
Pretty
button
much.
and made a little profile, and boom, there you go. And I find that quite sad, because I believe that it's the work and it's almost the bad times that build you into having a good product somehow. So again, I'll use being in a band as a perfect example. It's playing those gigs in front of a man and his dog. I've played shows in front of no one, in front of not one single person, right? I have physically played a show in front of a man and his dog at the Glebe. At the Glebe, this is years ago when I was a kid, and I did a solo show, and the venue had promoted it for the wrong night.
Oh,
and I
no.
got there.
Is that what the poster said?
Yeah, I was a day early, and I had a gig booked for the next night, which was the night they'd promoted it for. And I was like, I can't do it. So I played anyway, and there was a dude at the bar about 60 years old with a Jack Russell. That was it. Jack Russell loved it. You know,
Milo.
at least someone did. But I always feel, and I'm not a famous musician or anything like that now, but locally, I suppose I am. And I've achieved quite a lot throughout my career, not just as a live performer, but as an engineer and a producer and a teacher. And I've worked hard, really, really hard to just doing this podcast. I mean, I spent 6 weeks, every minute of every day in this building, making the studio. One of the reasons of which, so we could record this podcast from it. And I feel that there's, again, going back to what we were saying, anything worthwhile is worth sweating over, isn't it? But maybe that's not true anymore with the advent of the internet and social media. Is it true? How many bands do you know who have thousands, millions of subscribers? For what, really? For what?
But I think that ties into the cultural piece of it devalues hard work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why work hard? Because you don't need to. Like, there's other people. Well, arguably you do, but then people think, well, why should I? And and then you've also got a generation of people who think that a mobile phone is the whole world, which it's not their fault. That's just what they've been taught by the mainstream media and by a lot of the parents.
I played a show yesterday afternoon, another really, really good show, and there was a good mix of people from all ages. I played outside, it was a big beer garden again, and there was people ranging from probably 70, 80 years old right down to 13, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
And every single person under the age of 30 spent the entire gig staring into the phone. Every person over the age of probably 35, 40 didn't have a phone with them.
Yep.
And there's your cut-off point right there. So all the young people particularly, don't get me wrong, enjoying the show, cheering and everything after each song, but while the show's going on, bang, straight into the phone, all the way through.
Oh, it's all about being in the moment, though, isn't it?
And it's strange. It's a real strange situation.
How do you enjoy anything? Like, how do you enjoy something without... You go to watch something, but you spend all the time looking at a phone.
Looking at a screen. Very peculiar.
Outside of reality, definitely.
I don't really understand it at all. Another subject Glyn wanted to touch upon, which again it links in with what we've just been saying. People seem to have forgotten what a CD is. Well, a vinyl and a CD.
Music.
People don't understand. I've got a few vinyls still down there. CDs I've got on a big shelf in there. My little boy didn't know what a tape was, didn't know what a vinyl was. I've shown him, but most young people, no idea.
I don't think they even know that CDs exist.
I mean,
and that's not actually a joke. That's fully serious.
I've got to be honest, I haven't bought a CD in 10 years plus.
Yeah, I can't remember the last one I bought, to be honest.
The convenience of streaming, for better or for worse. Well, I subscribe to a streaming service called Tidal, which offers mastered quality streaming. People are so used to listening to shitty 128k MP3s and whatnot. And it's awful. It's fucking awful. The standard on Apple Music and Spotify, it's fucking terrible. So I pay a little bit more for Tidal and listen to proper CD mastered quality, and the difference is stark. I urge anybody who's into music to check out Tidal. We're not sponsored by Tidal or anything
not yet.
like that.
But if Tidal does want to sponsor us,
give us a shout, Tidal.
Yeah.
But do it. It makes a difference. But I still, to this day, love listening to vinyl. I do.
I think there's an experience involved in holding something physical in your hand, a CD or a vinyl, pulling out the artwork, taking a look at it. And it's a whole package, right? It's not just the song. And again, the people who've made that music, created it, have spent hard, time and effort, and spent a lot of, it's hard work, right? Creating and physically printing those for people to enjoy, hopefully. But then this links into a little story, bringing in Rich Sumnall, actually, last week's guest.
Rich the roller coaster Sumnall.
So I used to work with Rich, and we're of a similar age. I think Rich might
Was
be,
it during
might
your
be
3 days at
slightly older than me.
JCB?
So we were discussing music at work, and this is a while ago now as well. This is probably pushing 10 years ago, and we were discussing the idea that, oh yeah, you see this exact conversation, oh CDs, like I love them, etc., etc. And we were working with a lad. He was probably only 19, I think, at the time, and he said he'd never bought a CD in his entire life.
Wow.
And that at that point I was shocked by that. I thought, holy crap! Like,
And that was a good few years ago.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. So nearly 10 years ago now. So I think people in this day and age, let's say, I just don't think that it's all that popular. There's people who love music, they're very invested in that. Like my brother's a good example. He buys everything that he can, he goes onto an artist's website and buys everything that they've ever made, right? There is the extremes of people doing that as well, but I think it's falling out of favour a bit.
My daughter's 21, and I don't think she's ever bought I've bought her some CDs, but I don't think she's ever bought a CD.
She might not have even bought any
money.
Music, right? Like,
quite possibly
even
not.
just the stuff that she listens to is potentially just free on the internet, right?
Yeah. Crazy, absolutely crazy.
Metallica were right all those years ago, man. Napster.
Killing
they were
it.
right to be frustrated, I think. I mean, look what happened.
I think the record company shit themselves, didn't it? And then managed to find a way to use the technology to make themselves richer again, as always happens.
Strange.
So something else will come along eventually, it will, lads. I just wanted to touch on one last thing before we have another song, and it's Freedom Day today when we're recording this podcast. It's Monday the 19th. The government haven't fucked us up the arse again. Surprisingly, as they did last month.
Where was that can of worms, Andy?
They're just opening it here, mate. It's got
halfway through opening it now.
It says Pandora on the tin.
What's that black liquid coming out of it?
I was thoroughly expecting. I've been to B&M this morning to buy an airbed. I'm working. I'm doing live sound at a festival this week up in Pontefract in Yorkshire. So I needed a new. Was that a thumbs up for Yorkshire there, Liam? There we go. Shout out for Yorkshire.
Repping Yorkshire.
Going up. So when I was in B&M, of course, I've never worn a face mask because I'm not ashamed to say on this podcast. I've refused all the way through. I walked in this morning and everyone's still got face masks on.
Oh,
that was the same in Tesco, mate.
Every single person, except, strangely enough, the B&M staff haven't got to wear them. The B&M have come out and said, no, it's bollocks, you've not got to wear them. The fruit and veg store and Iceland, they were making the staff wear them, right? So 12 months ago when I said, I came out on social media and I said, the government will one day get rid of this law, right?
Yeah.
But by then, they will have scared you people, us, the people of the country, so much, they'll have made us shit ourselves so much that they won't need to make it law. You people will do it anyway. You'll police yourselves and you'll carry on doing it, right? And I have to say, if you want to wear a face mask, that's your prerogative. You can crack on with it. But again, I'm a believer that most people are doing that to virtue signal and follow the herd. If you've got something that's wrong with you and you think that that's going to make you safe, then okay, I can get on board with that. I do have to ask the question then, why didn't you wear a face mask before COVID, right?
Yeah.
If you think you're that at risk of getting a virus, right, why didn't you wear a face mask before COVID?
They definitely existed before the coronavirus.
That's why it's called COVID-19, mate, and not COVID-1. It's quite simple, really. Flu.
It's a typo.
Flu is the best example, right? Flu kills hundreds of thousands of people across the world every single year, except last year, conveniently.
But no one
Weird.
likes to recognise
Right?
that.
No one wants to talk about that. But what I'll say is, flu can kill you if you're already ill. If you've got something, a pre-existing condition, or you're elderly, flu can kill you. Not one of you wore a face mask before COVID-19. So when you say you're doing it because you can't be too safe, I'm not really sure about. Not really buying that one. Sorry, because that makes no sense. Because you didn't wear a face mask to protect you from all the other viruses that can kill you before COVID-19 came along. So my point that I'm trying to make anyway, guys, is Freedom Day, as it's been packaged by the media, I think should be repackaged as Bollocks Day, personally.
But what would happen if you, like, say you walked into Tesco or something like that, one that you're not banned from, Andy, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I'm banned from Tesco.
And they says to you, excuse me, can you wear a mask?
Well, I'd just say no, like
I know,
I've
but
said all the
but
way through.
people as a whole should be able to say that. They're like, I don't need to wear a mask, so why?
And again, it's virtue signalling, Liam, because people we're herd animals. Human beings are herd animals, and 90% of us will follow whatever everybody else does. Fashion, fashion is the perfect example for you, right?
Yeah.
So if the coolest kid in the class wears a pair of jeans that's made by such and such, most of the people in the class will do this.
Yeah.
Right? That cool kid, he comes in and he's got a pair of Nike Air Max on, right? So all the other kids will try and get a pair of Nike Air Max, and then you'll get one or two like me who'll go, well, I'm all right, I'll just wear these cheap £5 Gola pumps from Shoe Fair.
Shit flickers.
And then that means I've got an extra 30 quid in my pocket for take my girlfriend out at the weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm the minority. So if you took a class of 30 kids, there'd probably be 3 or 4 of us who would go, well, I couldn't give a shit what kind of trainers I'm wearing because it's bollocks, right? And the same thing has been passed on to the COVID. I refuse to call it a pandemic. The COVID situation. Exactly, Glyn. I agree with you. It's not. If you base it on facts, it's not a pandemic.
Well, even looking at the statistics that they give to you, and when I say they, the man, the government, right, the machine, what they give to you, it still isn't a pandemic. If you look at percentages and things like that, we're not going to go into it, right, but it's not actually a pandemic. When you're talking about percentages,
it's just the media
under
using
5% of people dying or even getting it, to me, that isn't a pandemic.
But the reason is, if the media use the word pandemic, it scares the shit out of people
scary,
more,
right?
and people will then be more malleable to whatever is brought in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the problem we're facing now is the government don't even need to make any rules anymore. The proof's in the pudding this morning.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. It's exactly the same. People are still keeping the distance from each other. People are still walking around with face masks on. Nothing's changed. The only difference is now we're doing it to ourselves. We haven't got a law telling us we've got to do it. And I really, really fear where this is going to lead us to as a society. I really do. It's already become a two-tier society where you've got people like me who are, I'm quite simply I'm not a COVID denier, I'm a bullshit denier. That's what I always say. What was that?
I'm just banging me
Liam smashing studio up again.
Elbow on table.
And I'm not sure what path we're going down here, lads. I want to stand on the rooftops and shout, take your fucking masks off. Take them fucking off. Stop doing it.
They're my favourite to see on social media, and it's like, yeah, but people are dying. I say, well, I'll tell you what then, you stay inside for the rest of your life.
That's fine.
You just stay inside then and don't see your friends, don't see your family. What's that? You want to go on a cruise with Maureen? Oh, you can't, mate. People are dying.
Drown.
People are dying.
You could drown.
Yeah, you
there
could
you go.
drown.
You could,
Well, I think life is inherently
It's dangerous
unsafe.
as fuck. Yeah,
Like,
it is.
Yeah.
You accept that when you're born, you don't get much choice, right? You're just born, but you understand that life is unsafe and that things may or may not happen to you that are horrific, like they might do. So, but you have to accept that and decide to just involve yourself anyway, right? Like do what you want to do anyway. But I'm not saying that people should make terrible decisions and to decide to just be like horrible and horrific to each other. That's not the point of it. It's like, well, you can do anything you want, but you've got it. Well, life is risky. You've got to just engage with it and say, well, weigh up the risk, intelligently think about it critically for at least 5 seconds, which most people haven't done, I don't think. I think that was my biggest issue actually about the whole thing. It's just discouraging thinking. And that's what most people, if they actually sat there and thought about it for an extended period of time without being influenced by social media or the TV, they might come to a different conclusion.
I absolutely agree with you there, Glyn. And just taking actual facts and figures on board, if people took the time to... Every single opinion that I formed throughout this COVID debacle has been from facts and figures released by our own government, right? I don't get these facts and figures from conspiracy websites, right? I get them from the released figures from our NHS and from our government, right? And people call me crazy. They call me a nutter. Where are you getting all this from? I'm like, look it up yourself.
Yeah,
it's right there
black
for
and white in
anybody
front
to
of you.
see.
Yeah.
Anybody at all to see. Just little things along the lines of, if you're under 40, your chances of dying from COVID are so slim to be negligible, right? It's pointless even thinking about it. Even at the height of this shit, your chance was basically zero if you were under 40. If you're under 40 and healthy, I should say, right? Which is most people, right? Okay. If you're elderly or you've got something wrong with you, right, then yes, take some precautions. Absolutely sensible. Maybe the government should have come in and taken some precautions for those groups of people. But I say this, if I was 90 and there was a bad flu bug going round, probably stay in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Common sense again.
Well, all I've ever championed throughout this is sensible measures for vulnerable people. That's all I've ever said. I'm not a COVID denier. I'm not one of these nutters that thinks it's all connected with 5G and all that kind of madness.
Bill
Right?
Gates.
I'm just someone that
He's doing
bases
some weird shit.
everything that I think are based on logic, common sense, and facts. That it's as simple as that. And yet we've, as usual in modern society, we've managed to live this as a mad soap opera, like an episode of Love Island, right? It's all about attention all the time. And that's why we're still in a position where we don't have to wear face masks, but 90% of you still are. And I implore you, please, listeners to the podcast, get back on with living your lives, guys.
Put your phone down. And
Get back
go out,
on
get out
with
there.
living
I
your
couldn't
lives.
have actually put that better myself,
Yeah.
Liam. Just as a general rule, put your phone down and actually live your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Incredible.
Just pick it
Love
up when
it.
it's time to watch the Anger Management podcast.
I mean, after you finish
Once
listening
a
to
week
this.
on Friday, right?
Or
When we hit.
if you possibly fancy a listen to this next band, what we're going to feature, quite possibly the greatest band in existence,
Nah,
Glyn.
don't fancy it.
Oh,
Biased.
This is a song by our band, Round in Circles, and this is taken from our first album from 2013, Glyn, would you believe, 8 years ago.
I know, right?
But
How long was the song written ago? Like 5 years prior to that?
Yeah. So
Something.
the song is from probably about 2007,
An 8?
8, something like that.
2008.
Yeah,
maybe,
2008.
Well, yeah, probably earlier.
And I wrote this song about social media, which was the perfect link, really. The song is called Stalker, and we have references in there to some old platforms, MySpace,
Oh,
Bebo.
Bebo.
No
yeah.
MSN reference. I was quite hurt by that, but
There is an
Is
MSN
there?
reference, yeah.
oh, where's that?
I am a sender of good faith.
Oh,
That's
mate.
what the lyrics have. You never noticed that one,
I don't
Glenn?
think I did.
Yeah, the lyric is I
yeah, well, I know the lyric, but yeah.
sounds I am a sender of good faith.
I am a sender.
But it says I
I
am
Mate,
a sender.
I love it even more now.
There you go,
Oh,
mate.
there you go.
It's taken me
You-
that long to well, I
13
didn't even know.
years till Glyn's realised this. But
Yeah.
Glyn, I wrote this song and then Glyn did his usual and song developed the shit out of it. And it was on our first record, self-titled Round in Circles album from 2013.
Which you can see behind Andy's head right now.
It's right here.
Yeah.
That's the
Plug.
platinum disc right there.
If you're watching on YouTube, this is a podcast after all.
Yeah,
Sure.
there you go. There you go.
Watch the YouTube version.
Yeah,
Yes.
watch the
And then you get
YouTube
to
version.
see.
You can see look, artwork and everything.
You get to
Look,
see
there it
just
is.
how sweaty we are.
Yeah,
There it is.
basically.
In reality.
And give us a subscribe while you're here as well.
So this
Not
is
like begging it, is there?
this is Cyberstalker by our band Round in Circles. Let's have a listen, lads.
I booked an appointment with my face, but you invade my space. I am a sender of good faith. You are just a cyber stalker. Where the hell you from?
Welcome back to the Anger Management Podcast with me, Andy Stevenson.
Me, Liam Simcox.
And me, Glyn Mellor.
That was Round in Circles. That was us, Glyn. Liam hadn't heard that song before.
No, that was so good.
That's Cyber Stalker.
I'm not just saying it was really good.
Taken from our first self-titled album
Cheers,
back in 2013. Glyn's learnt something new about that song after all these years.
Yeah, true.
He's quite pleased.
I denied the MSN references, but I actually realised that Nudge You When You're Gone is obviously one reference, but I MSN'd her of good faith.
There you go, mate. There you go.
Never knew that was
Not
there.
just a hat rack, pal. Not just a hat rack. So, again, that was Round in Circles. You can check us out in all the usual places. We've got a new single coming out in a couple of weeks, followed by a new album next month, which has been delayed for approximately 16 months at the moment. We finished recording it in April last year and obviously have not released it because we couldn't go out and play it.
Nope.
So that is coming out next month, titled Life 1, Round in Circles 0.
Aptly named.
Aptly. We wanted to impart yet another Graham poll upon our listeners. We wanted to do something that everybody will have an opinion on with this one. So going back to our previous segment, we wanted to simply put it to our listeners. Will you be ditching your mask?
Absolutely.
Something that I'm sure everybody has something to say on that one.
I think especially the Scooby-Doo villains.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
ditching them. Oh,
Pesky kids.
I'm going. I'm going.
Mate, incredible reference.
There you go, see?
Yeah.
So you can let us know whether you'll be keeping your mask or not keeping your mask. If you have got a comment to leave us as well regarding that subject or any other subject that we've discussed on the Anger Management Podcast this week, you can reach us in the following places. Liam.
Yes, cheers for that, Andy. I like that. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube, Anger Management Studios. You can find us on Twitter, Anger Managed Pod, which is where this week's Graham poll will be for you to have your say and cast your vote.
Do you know, I'd love to get Graham Poll on the Anger Management
What a
Podcast.
guest.
Oh, could you
Can you imagine that? We could have a Graham Poll with Graham Poll.
Graham Poll could say the Graham Poll.
Yeah, mate.
Do you think there's some way that you
amazing.
could get a recording of him saying something? And
Yeah, but
get it in
maybe
there?
we
There
could.
is.
Yeah.
Perhaps
Could
he'd be up for
splice
it.
that in there.
He'd
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
demand a small fee, so we'd have to pay him. So, listeners, if you do want to buy us a
Worth it.
brew, buy us a brew.
I will get Graham Poll on.
We'll get Graham Poll on
I've
to do
actually
the Graham
found,
Poll.
by the way, an optimal position for my microphone, and the podcast is nearly over.
There we go. We'll know for next time, mate.
Yeah, that's it. There's always next time.
We always try to end the
Round
podcast
two.
on a lighter note, guys. Something that gives us a bit of a smile on our faces for the rest of the week. With you being a musician, Glyn, I've gone for something musical this week. I wanted to ask both of you guys, what is the album that means the most to you
Ooh.
throughout your life? I'm not saying it hasn't got to be your favourite. It hasn't got to be the most popular. It hasn't got to be something that everybody knows. Just a record that means the most to you for whatever reason
When we're saying
that may
record, we are talking album
be.
as
Album,
well.
yeah. I'm not talking an EP or a single. I'm talking a full-length album because I still think that's what it's all about. A
Sure.
proper album
I've got
is
mine.
where music is at, surely still to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come to you first, Liam.
I'm so
Oh,
glad
okay.
that you did that.
I know.
I knew Glenn was procrastinating over
Gives
this.
me a minute.
Do you like
So
my
it
little
gives him
hint
another
then?
minute.
It's like,
Oh,
oh,
right.
I know. I've got mine.
I'm going to come to you first,
But
Liam.
no, again, obviously, like my big influence throughout my life with music, it has been music.
Liam can actually play the guitar, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And obviously with my dad, because my mum were never bothered in music. My mum
My mum was never bothered with me. Never
No,
bothered
no.
with me. I come out and she just slapped me and then left.
Toss me aside.
But my mum was. It's a bit weird. Like my mum and dad. Like my mum was bothered about sports, but my dad isn't. But my dad's bothered about music, and my mum isn't.
Well, it's
But-
all bases covered then, mate.
That's
Yep.
it, sorted. I'm a bit weird like that.
I assume you had to learn rutting on your own.
Yeah, that's it.
They're the only three things that matter, mate. Sport,
So,
music, rutting.
So obviously, like a big influence has been music, and obviously since the radio, and obviously with the podcast and stuff like that. And the one for purely for sentimental value is Pink Floyd's "The Wall" album.
My missus will love you for that. That's her,
I thought you were
her
going to say
dad's
pink.
favourite.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Don't dis-
Yeah.
Don't
Just
embarrass
like
me
a
like
pill.
that.
Mate,
mate.
that'd be okay. Like, you
And gi-
like what you
and-
like.
So give us a bit of an explanation on why then, Liam.
Obviously,
What's
like
that mean to you?
that one of my big influences growing up. My dad's a massive Pink Floyd fan, stuff like that. Is that obviously there's a few to pick from. There was Wish You Were Here, Dark Side of the Moon, but The Wall mainly is just classic after classic, really, and influenced
Any
my kind of
particular
music.
favourites on that record, Liam? Or just more of
There was one that's not very well known. I mean, you'll probably know it, but it's
I
called.
won't, because I'm going to really piss you off by saying I can't stand Pink Floyd.
Controversial.
Sound. One called Nobody Home, and it's a good piano cover. I'd recommend giving that a listen.
My missus will be your best mate. She loves Pink Floyd. Her dad loves Pink Floyd, but I can't stand them.
That's fair enough.
I've never been able to get into them. A couple of half-decent tracks, but not my kind of thing.
Hang on, I'm going to send you an angry message on Facebook.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God, Andy, why do
your
you like Pink
opinion's
Floyd?
not right.
No, we're not, because we're not fucking weird.
A classic, and I know I'm in the minority there. But a lot of people love that record. But
I've never listened to it either.
Really, Glyn?
No, never.
Okay,
Never really listened to Pink Floyd.
Tried.
But I've got no disdain for them. I don't really listen to them.
I've tried, but I've never been able to get in. A Dark Side of the Moon as well. I don't know what it is. I just can't get into their sound somehow. Not my cup of tea.
Different.
But
yeah, it was quite like progressive at the time.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Yeah. So we've got Pink Floyd, The Wall from Liam. Glyn. If you
Honestly,
reel off 12 albums now, I know that's what you're thinking.
I'm trying to think of what has sentimental value, what means a lot to me in how I got to love music and the direction that pushed me in. And I mean, there's so many albums. My dad and my brother were massively into music, hence kind of why I was, I guess. And you get all the classic people might refer to as dad rock bands, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I listened to a lot of like AC/DC. My dad loved to death.
Yeah.
But also some more obscure stuff. Like, he was very into his like niche kind of Motown soul stuff because he was a soul DJ back in the day. My dad was. So, like, there's lots of different stuff that when I think about music that means a lot to me comes into my head. Even a song being James Sit Down that you played the other night was a song that reminds me of my dad. So yeah, like that's a meaningful song to me. But if I'm thinking about albums, what really influenced me, I have to go, and it's maybe such an obvious choice because if you listen to the music that I've been involved in during this show, then it'll probably be very obvious. But I'm torn between two because I'll go with Green Day, Insomniac.
Yeah. Great.
And
great
then
album.
I will also have to just throw in there, just in general, Blink-182. Like, I listened. It was actually the live album.
Take off your pants.
Yeah,
The Mark, Tom and Travis show.
Yeah, the Mark, Tom and Travis show. I can't tell you how many times I listened to that album growing up. Like, me and the band I was originally in, we listened to that album until like the earphones or the speakers disintegrated. Like, it was that many times.
Were you? Well, I know this is true because we used to do it all the time at band practice and when we were touring and stuff. That album has got a load of little outtakes at the end, so loads of little jokes from between the songs at live shows. And me and Glyn knew all the jokes, not just all the songs. We knew all the there was like 40 different little snippets of jokes, and we knew all the jokes
Brilliant,
as
mate.
well.
But I mean, most of the songs off of that are Enema of the State, I guess, right? But then you have also stuff
Some
from
of the early stuff.
Dude
Cheshire
Ranch,
Cat.
etc., etc. Yeah, so like I would say if I had to pick one, I would probably say Insomniac, Green Day. But I think Mark, Tom and Travis show, Insomniac, again, great albums. If I had to choose a song, man, that's really difficult. But I mean, great introduction to Insomniac, Armitage Shanks.
Yeah.
Right? Like, from that intro, you know it's going to be an epic album. So yeah, that's kind of where I sit.
I'm not far away from you, Glyn. I'll be honest. So, again, I've got loads and loads and loads of albums that have influenced me, but I play pop punk music, as you've heard, and that's what we play, and we've always played together.
Sorry, COVID.
I'm probably going to... Nice, Liam. Bit of COVID all over my leg there. Nice. Wish I had my mask on. I'm going to go with two. Again, I can't really...
You got another one, Liam?
distinguish between the two. Number one
That'd be good.
this is probably because I was 16 when this came out. 16, just going on 17. And this came out and changed my world, this album did. And it's Green Day, Nimrod.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And it's the song that everybody will know from that record is "Good Riddance, Time of Your Life," which actually doesn't sound like any other Green Day song. It's completely different. That's the song they're most famous for. But that whole album for me, there's 17 tracks on that album, and it's just epic from start. It's an adventure from start to finish for me.
If only Suffocated made it onto that album.
Yeah, Suffocated should definitely be on that album.
You're telling me, though, Andy, that King for a Day made it onto the album and Suffocated didn't? Just saying. If you ever want to listen to those two songs and you're a punk rock fan, tell me which one you prefer.
I agree, totally. But I love that record. It takes me on a journey from start to finish. I almost said What's the Story, Morning Glory by Oasis, which was probably the album that really kick-started me into getting into music properly as a musician. But Nimrod changed. Nimrod, I was an early listener of Green Day before they even released Dookie in 94. So I was listening to Green Day from 92, and I loved them. I loved it, but it wasn't cool here at all. Nobody listened to it. There was no other stuff like that over here. And I loved it, but it was a very obscure niche genre at that point. Then Dookie happened and it exploded, and I loved Dookie. But Nimrod, for me, just changed my life regarding my musical life. And I was like, that's how I want to sound. That's what I want to be like right there. And that influenced everything to this very day, to the song that I'll write tomorrow will be influenced by that record. And the other one, for me, is I went to live in Turkey in 2001 after a bad accident that I'd had, and I'd been in hospital for a long time. I won't get into that right now. And I went to live in Turkey with my best friend Chris Razza. We've spoke about Razza before, and Glyn knows Raz. We went to live in Turkey, and this was the album that I bought just before we left. And I listened to this non-stop, and I'm probably going to say it's my favourite record ever. And it's Take Off Your Pants and Jacket by Blink-182.
Wow. Yeah.
And I love it from start to finish. I know every note. I know it's one of them where I know.
Dude, I was close to saying that album.
Yeah, I thought you might be.
Yeah.
It's one of them where I know every note vocally, guitar, bass, and drums. I know every song. And again, the reason I love it so much, I was living in a foreign country where it was sunny all the time, and that record just brings out the best of you. It makes you feel good from start to finish. And I'd sit on what they call the dolmuş, so it's the bus, and we'd go into Marmaris town, and that's what I'd have on my Walkman. Well, I had a mini disc player at that time, and that's what I'd have on all the time, and I'd sit there looking out the window at the scenery and that, and think to myself, I'm going to go to California one day. And I did end up going. I've been to California loads of times now, but that album for me, again, because it made me feel so good, and because it influenced me so much as a musician, and influenced everything that I did from that moment was influenced by that record. So for me, I'm the same as Glyn. Green Day and Blink-182, just two slightly different records.
Funny story, though, I'll keep it short, but about that album. When I first heard that album, we're like, oh, new Blink album, put it on. And we all kind of sat in my friend's bedroom. They put the CD on. We all sat there. And I remember it starting, like Anthem Part 2, and then Online Songs, which is now actually one of my favourite songs that Blink have ever made, I think, Online Songs. But I can remember listening to it going, it's just the same as all the others. No. Honestly, I put it on, and the first couple of songs, I was like, I figured out the bass line already. But that was the point.
That was the whole beauty of it, mate.
And I didn't get it, right? I was like 12 years old. But then I'm like, well, yeah, it's become... it's close to being my favourite Blink-182 album as well. Incredible album.
I can't see past those two records for me. So we had Pink Floyd.
Yep.
We had Blink-182 and Green Day, and we had Blink-182 and Green Day. So all good choices, guys. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up there. I want to say thanks to the artists who've been featured tonight for sending their music into us. Fantastic tracks again. I want to say thanks to Glyn Mellor for being here and guesting on the podcast with some wonderful insights on today's podcast. I'm sure we'll get you back in again at some point, Glyn, maybe even later on in this season, because that's been fantastic. Some knowledgeable chat. It's always good to have. Liam will give you the blurb once more for anybody that does want to get in touch regarding this week's Graham. And anything else you've got to say, really, even if you want to just send some hate mail to Liam.
Yeah. If you you can do that if you want. I mean, we'll put it in the sea, but we won't look at it.
I'll pin it all on the wall,
there you go,
guys.
There you go. You can get in touch with us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram, Anger Management Studios. You can find us on Twitter, Anger Management Pod, or you can also buy us a brew and, like I say, support the podcast in any way, shape, or form. And you can also send your music to us in your preferred destination.
Yeah, definitely. Get
also,
it in.
the Graham Poll, sorry, Andy.
Oh, yeah, there we go, Graham.
Because you mentioned it, was will you be ditching your mask? It's easy as that. You can find that
Simple,
poll.
yes or no.
Yeah, you can find that Twitter poll live on our Twitter page, Anger Managed Pod, and just have your say and leave a comment if you want to talk more about it.
I can't ditch my mask because I've never had one.
Okay.
What will you be doing, Liam?
I'll be ditching mine.
And you, Glyn?
Of course. Straight in the bin.
Yeah, there we go.
I think you should buy one just to get rid of it.
Just like a ceremonial burning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, guys, for having me on. Much appreciated, and it's
fantastic.
been a pleasure to chat.
Fantastic. We'll check you out again next week for episode 3 of the Anger Management Podcast. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
We'll see you later.
Take it
Thanks
easy.
for listening.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.